used their opportunity to present their personal circumstances, including the divulging the immovable and movable properties in their possession, as well as other circumstances that they think that the court should consider in making a decision whether or not they are suitable candidates to be released on bail.
Lastly, the White House has confirmed that some U.S. weapons deliveries to Ukraine have been halted over concern that the U.S. stockpiles are too low. They would have included artillery shells and Patriot's air defense missiles. Ukraine's been urgently requesting more Patriots to protect its cities from Russian attacks. A White House spokesperson said the decision put America's interest first. Recapping on your top story, Zimbabwe's Judicial Service Commission has ordered that all judges undergo training. The lessons that will be conducted by ZANU-PF's Herbert Chitepo School of Ideology are being described as a new low for the judiciary of the country. Channel Africa News, I am Oneli Ntsinzi.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Good morning. It's that time once again for On the Move. It is a Wednesday edition. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us right here on our show. Thanks to Asanda for keeping things held together for this morning's show. She was giving us that 3-hour roundabout on what's happening here on the African continent, but they make sure that we also know what's happening in the rest of the world. So thanks to our news team and thanks to Asanda. We're going to keep things going until midday South African time. Are you listening to myself, Benjamin Moshatama and Palesa? Thank you for joining us, and we always love having you on our show. Remember, you're listening to us on DSTV channel 802, OpenView 628. Those are the audio bouquets that you can find there, and then you can also stream us live on our website www.channelafrica.co.za, but also you can stream us live on our website. There seems to be a little bit of a lull on our live streams, so let me do the right thing and invite you come through and join us on our live stream. We're already live on our Facebook page. I was just listening to myself there. I've just switched on that live stream right now, and I see that we've had a few people coming in there, but keep coming into our live stream and checking out what's happening. You know what makes our live stream interesting is the fact that we also get our interviewees, that's our guests, into the conversation, and we put them on that live feed. So come in and become part of the show. We always love having you there. I see Lufeyo Piri is there, Samson Bees is there this morning. So thank you to those who continue to join us on our live stream. If you are not sure what I'm talking about, all you have to do is go to our Facebook page. You'll see there's a live broadcast there. Click on that live broadcast and you'll see what's happening here in studio. We always love having you there. What's coming up on our show is a very few cool conversations that we're going to be talking about. Of course, I'm not sure about you, but I get tired now of the phrase AI, artificial intelligence. I don't know if it's getting to you, but it's something that we keep on talking about because there's so much uncertainty around it. We're not quite sure how we're benefiting from it. And even if we are benefiting from it, is it in the scale that we need to benefit on it? That's the big question. And, there's so many promises that are being made around artificial intelligence. And Are they real, or is it just technological companies really over-promising? It's about 2 years since generative AI exploded into the mass market and became dominating even the boardroom lexicon. The technology has promised massive change, but is it all it's cracked up to be? We'll be speaking to Euphoria Telecom Chief Technology Officer Nick Leshinger a little bit later on. And then we're going to have our Live Well feature in the second hour. We'll be looking at the fact that last week it was International Day Against Drug Abuse, and we're going to look at this big thing. It's become commonplace, almost like we nonchalant about it in South Africa. That's the use of nyaobe. We kind of indifferent about it, as much as so many people are dying from this crystal meth addiction. It seems like it's something that we've also kind of like become like okay about it. Alcohol abuse in South Africa is also spiraling out of control, and the question is South Africa's rehab system keeping up with what's happening? We're going to be speaking about just the addiction environment, rehabilitation and healing. We're going to be speaking to a center of transformation which is based in west of Johannesburg, South Africa. Speak about some of the things that they deal with on a daily basis. That's Kurt van Heerden, who'll join us, founder and CEO of the Center of Transformation. Hey, Pali, have you heard people saying, hey, I'm OCD, I'm so OCD, I mean, we use that phrase all the time, and I think we use it just like easily, and we use it kind of like just not even thinking about what OCD is. We're going to find out what real OCD is. If you think about how the full phrase is obsessive, compulsive disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, it sounds like something that's very difficult to face, something that can become nightmarish for you. It's not something that necessarily we use it, the way we use it is very positive, but it can be very difficult for people who do have OCD. So we'll find out a little bit more about what the real OCD is all about.
All right, let's unpack these conversations from now until 12 p.m. Central Africa time. Welcome to On The Move. Do join us on our social media platforms. We look forward to hang out with you at Channel Africa 1. That's where you can find us on X, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. And of course, we're live on those platforms, YouTube and Facebook in particular. So let's make the Channel Africa circle bigger. Welcome to On The Move.
Got something to say? Are you passionate about issues that matter?
Do you have a voice that deserves to be heard?
Well, we've got the perfect platform for you. Call in or drop us a WhatsApp on +27 63 406 9126.
And we will call you back.
So you could have your say and be part of the conversation.
30 years of age. I just turned 30 on the 15th of November. So that's who I am,
It's not just talk. It's your chance to air your views.
Share your opinion.
Engage with a community that values your perspective.
Follow us on our social media.
Visit our website at www.channelafrica.co.za
and get ready to share your views
on Channel Africa,
the African perspective.
Mornings made better with Peter and Asanda on Rise and Shine, weekdays 6 till 9.
In recent weeks, East Africa has seen a disturbing rise in human rights violations. In Kenya, digital activist Rose Njeri was arrested under the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act after creating a tool for citizens to oppose the Finance Bill 2025. Meanwhile, in Tanzania, Kenyan activist Boniface Mwangi and Ugandan lawyer Agatha Atuhaire reported being detained, tortured, and sexually assaulted by security officers.
East Africa needs a reset. We need to get back East Africa to where the founding fathers are. When President Nyerere and his colleagues, Jomo Kenyatta and the Ugandan counterparts fought for independence. They fought for independence to get Africans out of poverty, to get Africans out of slavery. The leaders who took up power have since gotten into regression.
Neto Agostino, co-leader of the United Green Movement Party.
Mornings made better with Peter and Asanda. Rise and Shine.
Palesa and Benjamin fuel your day with fresh African perspective on Channel Africa.
Hey, it's 14 minutes past 9 o'clock Central African time. Let's start with our first conversation. I see people are coming into that live stream. Thank you for coming in and out. We always appreciate having you there. In fact, our guest is going to join us on our live stream as well. So if you want to check the conversation online, you can actually find it there on our various social media platforms. Thank you, Michael Tupa. Thank you, Lutefo Piri, for joining us there. Well, we're talking a little bit about AI. Is it what it's promised to be? Is it what we hope it will be? And that's the big question today that we're asking about. We've had so many promises over the years whether AI is going to actually fulfill some form of magical explosion into our lives, providing new jobs, making sure that our lives are a little bit more easier. There are very much exciting AI use cases that are emerging, but it still needs maturing. Voice agents, for instance, are improving rapidly and are capable of handling everything from ordering pizza to directing calls. And one day they'll take over my job and Palesa's job. We'll explore this technology and its impact right now, and we'll find out a little bit more. Euphoria Telecom Chief Technology Officer Nick Lashinger joins us on the line. Hey, Nick, thank you for joining us on the show.
Oh, and your pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Hey, we've been talking about this, and it's interesting that over time it feels like it's becoming laborious. It feels like it's becoming mainstream, and the more we talk about AI, the more like, okay, we get it. But however, Nick, we still have a long way to go, isn't it?
Oh, no, definitely. It does, however, feel like a little bit of marketing speak now these days. It was kind of like organic in the supermarkets a couple of years ago, where everything started being organic and everything started being gluten-free. AI is in everything these days, and you can't buy it without it being AI. So yes, it's everywhere. It's in everything apparently. But as you say, it's not always what it's cracked up to be. An interesting story that appeared in the news not even a month ago was a significant AI company that was considered one of the pioneers in the AI space was actually discovered to be 700 developers sitting behind the scenes pretending to be AI. And there was a company in India called Builder AI. So yes, a lot of it is people trying to keep up. A lot of it is people trying to make promises to kind of land grab in this space. But what is it and what can it do for us? Well, that is unfolding day by day at this point.
Yeah, because right now it feels very playful, especially on our more content creating side. It feels like we're just making images and generating images that are probably impossible to have done before. But however, when you get into the practicalities of, okay, how is this thing going to make more money for me? How is this thing going to lessen my need for efficiency? There's still questions around that. What are the questions that you're asking, Nick, right now where we are?
Well, it's funny that you say that. So we deal with two major streams of AI at this point in time, and the one is generative AI, which is, as you say, it's the creation of content. So you talk about things like Midjourney, which is a generative AI site. Most of what we deal with when we deal with things like ChatGPT or Grok or DeepSeek or any one of those, Claude, there's a countless of them these days. Those are all generative AI. They are taking prompts that you are asking, and they are going out and they are creating content for you. Now, that's all very useful in the space of I want to craft an email and I want to phrase it I don't want too much of my emotion leaking through. How do I put it like this, or how can I phrase it like that? And generative AI is very good for things like that.
Yeah.
In fact, it's so good that Disney is now getting into a lawsuit with Midjourney because it's now being able to create those like Pixar type movies that we've loved, and anybody who's ever had kids has been subjected to a whole bunch of those over the years, and some of us have volunteered as adults to go watch them and enjoy them a lot more. But anyway, so the ability for that kind of thing to start creating actual real, should I say real content? I mean, like a full-length feature movie that wasn't created. It was just, well, not created by humans, created purely by AI. The other stream is really the agentic AI, and that's seeing a lot of uptake right now, and that's in the ordering pizzas. It's that the autonomous decision maker. It can operate by itself. It doesn't need the human interaction, but we often use it for your customer service agents and your bots like that. And anybody who's had experience in the last number of years with dealing with bots on any customer service site, you will understand the frustration that people have felt going, can I just talk to a human, please? This thing just keeps going around in circles, and it does not do what I want. And agentic AI has improved that significantly. So, the ability for people to have that at any point in day and night, the ability to take something and triage it. So customer service, hell, even basic healthcare could be triaged by agentic AI. I'm not saying that's a suggestion right now because the accuracy rates might be concerning, but certainly there's a lot of use cases in it for that.
I was listening I was listening to the radio just a few days ago, and they were talking about the fact that there's now going to be AI robotic World Cup, soccer World Cup. So you'll be watching these AI robots in the field actually knocking around a little soccer ball, and I'm like, what's the point? But all those things are happening. There's these all like very weird new concepts that are coming out, and I think we're all trying to figure out what's the usefulness in all of it. Yes, I can generate a Jacob Zuma video of him hang out with me in his dinner table in Gandla, but what's the point of that? Even if I'm able to generate that, what does it do for us? And I think it's the usefulness that's coming into question. We'll continue this very fascinating conversation we're having with our guest today, which is Nick Lashinger, who is the Euphoria Telecom's Chief Technology Officer. Stay there on the line, Nick.
Ahoy, matey!
Captain here to help, right, boys?
Set sail with us on a digital voyage like no other. Channel Africa has a treasure trove of awesomeness. That is our website and social media pages.
Tell me, why are you here?
We want you to be part of our adventure.
The winds are changing, Captain. And this time...
Imagine a world where curiosity knows no bounds, where entertainment meets enlightenment, and where every click leads to the African perspective. Visit us on our website, www.channelafrica.co.za, or follow us on Instagram or on X at Channel Africa One. Go on, like us on Facebook at Channel Africa One. So, spread the word. Tell a friend that Channel Africa's online variety is what they need on the web. Channel Africa, the African perspective. 9 to 12 midday, Central African Time. On the move with Palesa and Benjamin Moshatama.
I actually got pretty annoyed with AI just this morning because one of my streaming services was cut off. I forgot to pay it yesterday. So I turn on the news this morning. It's not going on. I'm like, I remember I forgot to pay. So I go onto the account, which actually can be on WhatsApp, which is easy to pay. And that's incredible, right? So I go there. There are prompts there ready for me. And then I put the prompts in and they say, hey, would you like to reconnect your account? I'm saying, yes, I'd like to pay and reconnect. And then they say, sorry, we can't see any of your accounts that are suspended. Now I can't pay the account, meaning I can't watch my morning news on my TV as I'm getting ready for work.
Sorry, man.
So I had to find another way. And I was like, okay, that's quite annoying because you're AI, you're a bot, but you should actually be able to tell that my account was suspended.
You think AI has the answers for everything? Not yet.
Yeah, certainly. We're exploring where technology is having the biggest impact, especially generative AI right now, its future and where there's room for improvement, like my subscription services. Joining us on the line is still Euphoria Telecom Chief Technology Officer, Nick Lashinger, who's chatting to us about this. Nick, I was very annoyed by AI this morning, but hey, we have to find other ways around it where it still hasn't found the solutions that we need, right?
Well, my question to that was it AI or was it just a chatbot?
So what is the difference? Let's speak about that, because we think that everything that is not human is artificial intelligence, therefore AI, isn't it?
Oh, no, definitely not.
Okay.
I think everything's getting an AI tag on it because right now that's the buzzword. And if you don't have AI in your marketing material, then people are going, oh, you're so lost century. But the honest truth is that most of this probably isn't AI. Most of it is probably just a bot somewhere. And the difference is that a bot has been programmed to go through certain steps and go, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, and this is what the result you're going to return. There is no intelligence in that. That's just pure coding.
I see.
And from the sounds of it, that's what you experienced.
Okay.
And I must tell you, the learning curve for these things is massive. I mean, I had an experience the other day where a bank sent me an SMS, and they said, please phone us back on this number. So I did, from my cell phone. And the interaction said, sorry, we can't find an account attached to this telephone number. And I'm like, how is that possible?
Yeah, you guys sent me the message in the first place. All right, well, let's take a look at AI. I'm sorry for coming in there, Nick, but I want to go into, how rapid, things are happening with AI. The past 2 years have, been going really quickly. People are really excited and they're starting to sort of integrate AI everywhere. They're looking at all these spaces and say, okay, where can we put AI in? And just because you can, it doesn't mean you should, right?
Well, I think that ship has already sailed, unfortunately. The should-we question probably should have been asked before anybody opened Pandora's box, but the box is definitely open and the genie is out of the bottle, and AI is not going anywhere. So the question is, as you rightly say, is how do we use it? How do we use it? And this is something that I encourage my teams to do, is use it as a tool, but be very clear about who's in charge. Because if the tool starts taking over, well, then what value are you adding to the mix? And AI can be used in so many spaces. From the, hey, I want to write a mail to this customer. Please help me craft it. And what would have taken you 10 minutes now takes you 10 seconds. To the, hey, you know what, I'm looking for an image for my presentation that I want to give today, and I'm looking for something this particular. I can go and I can sit on the web and I can search for images and trawl through them for hours on end, as and probably many people, including myself, have done before, to put together that presentation that we want to do, or we can just ask AI to create it for us. Which is good and bad, because the question is what is real and what is not, then comes with it. It's like having an intelligent web browser at your disposal. More importantly, it's like having an intelligent being that is able to answer you without judgment, and that's where it's finding some very interesting take-up. So people who are looking for life advice, they're looking to talk about issues that they are possibly too embarrassed to talk about with other people, can go and go, okay, great, it's just a machine. It's not going to judge me. But then again, the AI is just going to be an echo chamber. It's going to tell you that's a very interesting idea, And so people are not sure where to stop using it. I feel like going out and shooting 100 people. That's a great idea. No, that's a terrible idea. But there's no right and wrong.
Oh no, we don't want people shooting anybody, Nick. Let's talk a little bit about that, because where it's going and just the transformation of it is very interesting, because I think right now everyone, like Palesa was saying, is trying to grapple with how to integrate it efficiently. There's still we're in the testing seasons of AI, Nick. Where do you see this technology going, where it's actually going to now create a sense of sustainable efficiency?
Oh, the answer to that is pretty much everywhere. I mean, the answer to that, it will spring up and it will be present in your life everywhere, every day. If you're on a phone call with a customer and they're saying to you, listen, I'd like to inquire about a fridge, and it is listening and going, okay, here's all the material about fridge that you want to talk to. These are the pertinent questions. It could help train people up faster. It could help people be more accurate. It could help detect issues faster. All of those things are, again, leaning on it as a tool, not doing the job. The problem comes in, and going back to Palesa's earlier statement around your frustration you found was, you got to a point where you were like, I just want to talk to somebody. I'm going around in circles. This is a problem. I want to talk to a human. And I think that's the danger of where big companies are looking at this and going, oh, great, I can have a call center that's completely autonomous and moving on, and there's no emotion, and they can answer everybody's questions, and I don't have to train them. They never take lunch breaks, and sooner or later somebody goes, I want to talk to a human.
Yeah.
We can't move away from humans. There has got to be people in the picture. There's got to be somebody who can pick up the phone and go, I'm here with you.
100%. Well, we'll leave it there. And I love how we're wrapping it up, because there still is a long future ahead of us when it comes to generative AI and all AI in general. But also, we need to figure out ways that we can keep human connection while we improve technology. So thank you so much, Nick, for your time this morning.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
That is the Chief Technology Officer at Euphoria Telecom, a business telephone service, and that is Nick Lashinger, speaking to us about the biggest impact right now of AI, its future, and where there's room for improvement. It's 9:30 Central Africa time. Let's get our latest sports news.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
And a very good morning from the sports desk. I am Musibu Dimakura with the latest sports news at the Sawa. So Uganda's dream of finally progressing past the group stages of the 2024 Total Energies African Nations Championship, also known as CHAN, has started in earnest as the country's football federation has unveiled a 41 provisional squad for this year's tournament, co-hosting the championship for the very first time alongside neighbours Kenya as well as Tanzania. The Cranes are keen to capitalise on home ground advantage when the tournament kicks off on the 22nd, the 2nd of August. Now the head coaches Fred Muza as well as Moli Beyikwaza will lead the charge and will also be selecting players from the 41-man squad, the final 23 for this tournament. Now, the squad will feature stars exclusively from the Ugandan Premier League, except for the surprise inclusion of James Bore of Masaka Sunshine FC, who plies his trade in the Regional Football League. At the same time as the countdown also continues for the 2024 CHAN tournament, Guinea's local-based national team has also begun their work for this year's competition, which obviously carries more emotional weight than the usual tournaments. Now, with the senior national team failing to qualify for the upcoming African Nations Championship tournament, all eyes have now shifted to the side to restore the national pride. Now, the Guinean Football Federation released a 26-man provisional squad, marking the start of what they hope will be a transformative campaign. Rather than staying home, Guinea has now chosen to prepare abroad. A training camp begins today in Senegal, a bold move aimed at giving the squad competitive exposure. So, as part of their warm-up games, Guinea will play back-to-back friendly matches against the reigning CHAN champions, Senegal on Friday and Saturday, both in Dakar, a challenge that would also see whether this team is ready for the upcoming battles in Group C against Algeria, South Africa, Uganda, as well as Niger. Further field now, Gonzalo Garcia's 54th minute header was enough to give Real Madrid a 1-0 lead over Juventus, and it was a win for the former champions. This game was played at the Hard Rock Stadium earlier on Tuesday and booked their place in the quarterfinals of the FIFA Club World Cup. Now, it was an impressive display from Xavi Alonso's Madrid side, and also adding to a positive day where the likes of Kylian Mbappe also made his return from illness, coming on in the 68th minute as a substitute for his first appearance at this year's tournament. Meanwhile, Serhou Gusaï continued his superb form for Borussia Dortmund with a 2-1 win over Sergio Ramos Monterrey, and also in the FIFA Club World Cup quarterfinals on Tuesday. The striker scored twice in the first half as Bundesliga powerhouse Dortmund held off the Mexican side. So Madrid will face off with Dortmund in the quarterfinal on Saturday for a place in the semi-final of the ongoing tournament. While African wheelchair tennis champion Alwande Skosana is overjoyed after clinching his first 2025 title at the ITF Futures International Wheelchair Series in Johannesburg. Skosana marched to a convincing 6-2, 6-love win over Germany's Anthony Dittmar on Monday to claim his first singles title on home soil after 6 years. Skosana says the tournament has been crucial to help him accumulate the ranking points ahead of major events this year.
Well, it feels absolutely amazing for me to win both titles, making it the first title of year 2025. And I think it was really important for me as a top-seeded player to win these titles, not for me to celebrate them, but to collect the points, which will help me improve my ranking. And I think that's my biggest priority right now.
So Skosana will begin his European tour in less than 2 weeks, starting with the Flanders Open, followed by the Belgian as well as the Australian Open. He says he's also happy with the build-up and also feels positive going into the upcoming events.
Confident that I'm going to do well as well, and also just knowing that I actually using these tournaments as a warm-up tournament before my European tour, I think I'm also looking forward to that. Very positive that I'm going to do well, and I will do my best as I did in these tournaments.
Right, it's 9:35 a.m. Central African time, and that's a wrap of your sports news this hour. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or give us a call on +27 11714 4459. For Channel Africa Sport, I am Musibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa.
The African Perspective. Are you fluent in French, Chinyanja, Portuguese, and Kiswahili? Are you passionate about radio? And are you looking to work in South Africa? Do you have papers that qualify you to work in South Africa? In that case, we might have an opportunity for you to work for Channel Africa. Send us your CV and demo at newsroom@channelafrica.co.za. Remember, if you don't hear from us within 14 days, it means you have not made it or you have not been selected. Channel Africa, the African Perspective. Benjamin Moshatama and Palesa on the move.
All right, thank you to Musibudi. Let's move on now to our business news.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Benjamin and Palesa. Good morning. Egypt's Petroleum Ministry says that it received a report from oil and gas production company offshore Shuker Oil Company or SOCO about a capsized drill ship in the Gulf of Suez. The ministry says the drill ship, identified as Adam Marine 12, is located in Gabal El Zayt in the Red Sea, which is Egypt's vital trade route and is one of Egypt's prominent oil production sites in the Red Sea. The incident is not yet expected to cause disruptions for navigation in the canal. According to authorities, at least 4 were confirmed killed so far, 6 missing, and 21 others were rescued. Uganda will require fuel distributors to blend locally produced ethanol into all petrol sold in the country starting next year, a measure that could reduce the East African nation's petroleum import bill. Uganda imports about $2 billion worth of petroleum products annually. It handed over exclusive rights for the supply of all such products to a unit of global energy trader Vitol in 2023. According to Uganda's Energy Ministry, the blending program is also part of government policy to promote clean energy, as bioethanol can help in efforts to reduce carbon emissions. A Ghanaian organization fighting against illegal mining, known as Fight Against Galamsey, says Chinese nationals are to blame for the rampant problem of illegal gold mining, known as Galamsey. China's ambassador to Ghana, Tong Defa, has since pushed back against accusations that Chinese nationals are solely to blame for the illegal mining activity, saying Chinese nationals could not obtain local mining licenses and were often brought in by Ghanaians who facilitated the illegal mining operations. Mustafa Bad is part of Fight Against Galamsey in Ghana.
We are not just blaming the Chinese, we are holding them responsible for the destruction of our forest reserves and our water bodies through mining. And it suffices to say that in as much as we cannot hold the entire China-Ghana relationship in contempt, we believe that a lot of Chinese nationals who have come to Ghana have been part of the very devastating situation that have affected our lands and our natural resources.
Some South Africans in the hospitality sector say that while the upcoming G20 summit will contribute to the economy, it must be used to change the optics and showcase the country in a positive light. Scores of guests will descend on South Africa this November for the international forum that brings together the world's major economies to discuss global financial issues. The Africa Travel and Tourism Association, ATA, estimate that the summit will bring in $68 million into the economy. Managing Director for Africa at the Radisson Hotel Group, Sandra Kinubula, explains.
South Africa is one of the most genuinely friendly countries in the world to visit, and you hear it again and again and again from so many different people. And so many travelers comment on how nice it is to visit South Africa and how welcoming and friendly our people are. And I think that is that's our superpower as a country, if I'm honest, and we should never, ever lose that. So I think that plays a huge role. I think the other thing, it's hugely underpinned by South Africa's constitution, which is one of the most progressive in the world, where we genuinely welcome everyone from every walk of life.
Fuel prices in South Africa have increased at midnight, leaving motorists to pay out more at the pumps. The price of 93-octane petrol prices increased by between 55 South African cents and 52 cents a litre, depending on the grade. Diesel increased by between 84 cents and 82 cents per litre, depending on the grade, while the price of paraffin has increased by 67 cents per litre. The Minerals and Petroleum Resources Department says the price of LP gas decreased by 57 cents per kilogram countrywide, except in the Western Cape province, where it increased by R1.90 per kilogram. Robert Make of the Department of Minerals and Petroleum Resources elaborates.
The reason for this adjustment are as follows. The higher oil prices due to the conflict in the Middle East between Israel and Iran during the period under review. The rand strengthened against the dollar and cushioned the prices by over 15 and 16 cents a litre. The MRP of LP gas is decreasing by 57 cents per kilogram due to lower prices of propane and butane. The slate levy remain unchanged at 0 cents per litre on the price structures of both petrol and diesel.
$1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,000 naira, 534, Botswana 13 pula 16, Kenya the dollar is at 128 shilling, 586, Zambia 23 kwacha 85. BRICS countries, $1 in Brazil is at 5 real 44, Russia 78 rubles 36, India 85 rupee 58, China 7 yuan 15, South Africa 17 rand 62 cents. $1 is 72 pence to the British pound and 84 to the euro. Commodities, gold is at $3,335, platinum at $1,352 per ounce, the price of Brent crude oil at $67.12 a barrel. That is all for now. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or you can call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I am Chanduko Ligege.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Out and about with Puleng Mulibatsi.
Me Patricia Delil with us talking about just the growth and the development that South Africa is experiencing in terms of the tourism sector, which is also one of the driving contributors to the growth of the South African economy. What would you say are factors that are driving the positive trajectory in South Africa's tourism sector, Minister?
The whole value chain. And, I always get feedback to say that, South Africans are so friendly, the Ubuntu spirit. So our people are our biggest asset. And what we've also seen is that South Africa's value for money, and that we are eternally grateful for our African brothers and sisters. Because in 2023, we received 8.5 million visitors, and 6.5 came from the continent.
Minister of Tourism, Patricia Patricia DeLille.
Out and About comes to you every Saturday, 9 till 12 noon, Central African Time. Get the news, music, and lifestyle of Africa on Channel Africa, the African perspective. It's an opportunity with 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle. We deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa. Partner with Channel Africa because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa. Partner with Channel Africa because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it.
Faku, complemented by the supreme beats of San El musician, that is Into Ingawe. This one takes us to 48 minutes past 9 o'clock Central African time. I don't know if you are becoming very indifferent about AI like I am. I'm kind of like, I thought there would be more by now. I thought that this would actually be implemented in a way that's actually going to have a larger impact in our communities. But it seems like there's a lull and there's kind of like where it kind of stops. And I think it's part of the development of it. I'll tell you, as a journalist, you tend to kind of look at AI as like a complementary, like sub, right? Editor, right? And it does kind of help you. But where AI sucks is that when you give it an instruction and it changes your tone, and you can tell AI has its own tone. AI has its own vocabulary. AI definitely has its own way of saying things. You can tell when someone has actually sent you something and it's actually AI. You can tell when you're looking at a LinkedIn post of someone and you're like, this is really more AI than anything. It's not that human language is gone and that human voice of that person is not there.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. In fact, as we speak, I'm writing like a romantic message, right, to my partner. Now, imagine if I'd used AI, they would probably read it once I've sent it and say, this doesn't have any feeling.
Yeah.
It's beautiful words put together, but there's nothing there. There's no feeling. And you can always feel, human interaction. And even if you can't see that person, there's tone in the way that we interact, there's tone in the way that we talk, and sometimes you just need that feeling.
Yeah, and also error. Error, there's a beauty in error at times, because some people think that, a world without error is a more efficient world. But at times in our best projects, there's a moment of error that actually leads to another way of doing that particular thing. Let's say you are an organizer of an event. Let's say you are a mom at home and you're actually organizing a dinner, right? And then something doesn't work, right? And you have like a recipe that didn't work out. But then through that error, you actually make something else. I'm a big fan of the MasterChef competition. I'm watching MasterChef Australia right now. And some of the stuff that they do there is like they're always trying to perfect this dish. But at times they have to pivot because there's an error. There's that human error that in putting together the dish, like, oh no, man, I made this error. I need to pivot and actually do something to make this dish even better.
Yeah.
And that dish becomes better than it would have been if there was no error in it. So there is a space for error, I think, to a certain degree. Some of the biggest and loveliest projects have a little bit of error that are part of it, and maybe it's nuanced in the ways that we see it. But what's your take? AI, do you think it's come to a place where you understand it? Has it come to a place where you're like, I want more from it? Do you think it's making the impact that we were promised? Give us your thoughts on our WhatsApp number, +2763 406 9126. You can text us or voice note us there.
Es-tu préoccupé par quelque chose? Es-tu passionné par les questions qui comptent? As-tu une voix qui mérite d'être entendue? Eh bien, nous avons la plateforme parfaite pour toi. Téléphone-nous ou fais-nous un WhatsApp au +27 66 408 87 42 et nous te rappellerons. Sois dans la conversation.
Salut Channel Africa, ici Beno le diamant rouge et Binal Export depuis le Cameroun, le pays des lions. Voilà.
Sois dans la conversation. Il ne s'agit pas seulement de parler, mais c'est ta chance d'exprimer ton point de vue, de partager tes opinions et de t'engager avec une communauté qui valorise ton avis. Suivez-nous sur les réseaux sociaux, visitez notre site www.channelafrica.co.za et préparez-vous à partager vos points de vue sur Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
Tune in and turn up the volume. This is Channel Africa. For business, for culture, for Africa. Partner with Channel Africa because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story. A living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent. African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices. English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers,
Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa. Partner with Channel Africa because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese.
And this one is titled Me and You right here on Channel Africa. This is where you get the African perspective. I'm looking forward to the next hour's conversation, especially when we break particular myths or stigmas around mental health. And a lot of the time, we've spoken about this before, we really, we really sometimes take a look at some mental health phrases and we make them sort of easy. We make them nonsensical. We make them, just easy to acquire. And we think, yeah, you know what, I'm OCD. Oh my goodness, that's so OCD of you. And essentially what we're doing is we are watering down something that could actually be quite important, not just to ourselves, but we're watering it down for those who are trying to be more aware about mental health conditions. So what does it mean to actually be OCD? Does it just mean that you like cleaning a lot and then when you go to someone's place, like, oh no, you know what, I'm always tidying up, I'm so OCD? And people use these in so many different ways. But then if you trivialize these discussions, how do we identify when someone actually has a serious mental health issue? So we're going to be going into that conversation in the next hour of the show, speaking about OCD and understanding it better, but also understanding why we trivialize some mental health conditions by just using it as an everyday term.
Yeah, I've been on your case about some of these terms that you sometimes speak about from TikTok and whatever. And I'm like, no, Pali, that term is not cool because it sounds light and people like use it and it bombs. It's like bombs on a particular platform where there's a particular time where just a phrase trends. I've noticed on social media.
Yes, that's what happens.
One thing happens is that everyone is talking about it. I don't know, someone maybe might introduce it. Probably a prominent person would introduce this phrase or something and use it incorrectly. And then everyone will go in the same trajectory. Mm-hmm. And what happens there is that there are people who are suffering from those kind of real mental health conditions, and they're watching and they're like, yeah, if you guys thought this is what it is.
Yeah, you actually have no idea.
You have no idea
how it feels to go through
I'm
this.
reading about some of the obsessions and compulsions you have around OCD.
Yeah.
You probably have an excessive hand washing, and sometimes it's excessive to a point where it damages you.
Yes.
And it actually can harm you physically. There is repeated checking. Have you ever like left your house in the morning and you're like, yo, I'm not sure if I left the iron.
Yeah. But people with OCD
might
go to work and they might actually feel the urge to go back home.
Yeah.
And that obviously will affect...
not go to work
because they keep returning to check new things.
Yeah.
And that can be quite counterproductive if you're trying to be part of society.
To be honest, it's life crippling and it's not a nice thing to actually go through. And some people go through mental rituals. Like I know when I was a little kid, I used to... This is not OCD.
Yeah.
But I used to, when I walk back home, there's these Palisade stacks on the pavement.
Yeah.
And I used to walk 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there would be another block 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, I still do that.
I don't know why I did that.
Sometimes
it was like a little game. I can do 4 steps in each until I get home.
Or you'll be walking on something, those Palisades or anything with like a grid, and you're trying to walk, but you're trying to make sure you don't step on the lines.
Yes, absolutely.
But it's like a fun play thing that we do, and sometimes it just keeps, takes the edge off. off. But there are people who actually have OCD that might find it quite life crippling because they actually cannot move if they don't follow those particular ritual or patterns or steps.
So it's a very serious thing. So we'll talk a little bit about it. I'm looking forward to that conversation that's coming up in our third hour. But we're going to be talking about something very, very cool. And I think it's cool because we don't talk about it, you know. I like to say things are cool, and probably the listeners like, Ben, this is not cool.
Someone will say there's nothing cool about drugs,
There's
Benjamin.
nothing cool about nyaupe, right?
Yes.
But nyaupe has become like so normal in our communities, right? And we just like, I know even people who struggle with the nyaupe addiction have become like people that we don't even have much concern about. So it's like, that boy,
it's just
we even
don't
call
worry.
them nyaupe. We call them according to their drug. So we've got crystal meth in South Africa is called nyaupe. So we'll say, this person is crystal meth, you know, and it's like, don't worry about him. Yeah, he's what it is. Just let them be. And there's not a real engagement in society to actually change that, you know. I remember when I first saw people who had this addiction was in my township, and they became like taxi conductors. So if you were standing on the side of the road, a nyaupe person would come next to you and say, I'll stop the taxi for you. And then they'll open the taxi for you, you get in, and then the taxi guy will give them a rand or 2 rand or whatever it is. I don't know if it happens in your community.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. And I'm like, how normal is this? Because number one, you feeding the addiction of this person by giving them money for something that they haven't really done, really. Because
and it's not just that they're car guards, and I say this in inverted commas, car guards.
But
in various spaces.
Yeah, with that one I kind of understand. But the one of kind of like every single day, this person stands in one spot, you're giving him money to feed their addiction. Just shows how indifferent we are to the fact that they do have an addiction. So I'm looking forward to this conversation. It's 1000 hours Central African time. We'll get into it in the next few minutes. But right now, let's find out what's happening in the latest news with Onel Nzinzi.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Benjamin. Looking at your top stories, the AU peacekeeping mission helicopter in Somalia crashed and British government faces substantial revolt. Your latest news, greetings to our listeners. A military helicopter from the African Union peacekeeping mission in Somalia crashed at the airport in the capital Mogadishu. On its X account, state-run Sona News outlet reported that the helicopter from the African Union Support and Stabilization Mission in Somalia was carrying 8 personnel when it crashed during landing. ASOM has more than 11,000 personnel in Somalia to assist the country's military counter-Islamist group Al-Shabaab. The Al-Qaeda affiliate has been fighting for nearly 2 decades to topple Somalia's internationally recognized government and to establish its own rule based on a strict interpretation of the Sharia law. Zimbabwe's Judicial Service Commission has ordered that all judges undergo training. The lessons that will begin this week will be conducted by ZANU-PF's Herbert Chitepo School of Ideology. Critics have described this as a new low for the judiciary in the country. Letters to the judges say the training program has been organized by the president and that it was part of performance review. Political analyst Rejoice Ngwenya explains.
So I don't understand how such an important program of results-based management, which is generally done by the Public School of Management in Darwindale or in Masasa. So there is absolutely no way you can achieve any effective results over a 2-day period for such an important aspect. And judges themselves should know because they went to law school for almost like 5-6 years. So I believe that this is just a workshop that is there to produce a few notes and instructions on how the judiciary should, sap up with the executive. And it's totally unacceptable. It's a violation of the constitution, and it's not right that our government is subjecting our independent officials to such a so-called ideology training.
Over 40 undocumented foreign nationals have been arrested for occupying hijacked buildings and the illegal connections of electricity from structures in the Johannesburg CBD in South Africa. This follows an inspection conducted by city officials led by the acting executive mayor of Johannesburg, Kenny Kunene. The city has seen an alarming increase in the number of hijacked buildings that are not conducive for people to occupy. Kunene says the city is in severe debt as a result of the illegal electricity connections from hijacked buildings.
We are calling on all the other private owners of the buildings to come forward. We are declaring war on these illegal buildings. Those that have been hijacked, that have private owners, we want them to come forward. Those that do not have owners, we are going to expropriate as the city so that we can put them in the inventory of the buildings of the city, so that as we embark on this program to revitalize Johannesburg and the surrounding suburbs, then we know which buildings we must target.
Political analyst Ntsikelelo Breakfast says the Umkhonto party in South Africa needs to institutionalize democracy within its structures if it wants to achieve a positive electoral trajectory. This is, he says, decision-making in the party often centers around its leaders and founder Jacob Zuma, citing that it can be problematic. His comments come amid rising tension, which calls for the removal of some high-ranking party members. Breakfast says the MKP members appear to be hostile towards individuals who were not part of the party's formation.
It's an open secret. Decision-making revolves around former President Zuma. No doubt about that. That's why the letter was written to him. One of the letters, it was addressed to him. That is the problem. I don't think party members must accept that uncritical. They need to engage with that. Under normal circumstances, in a democracy, people must be free to express their views strongly about those issues. So now, if you must be sensitive to this person, that is not a democratic party. That is something else now. And that is going to affect the growth of the party.
Lastly, the White House has confirmed that some U.S. weapons deliveries to Ukraine have been halted over concern that U.S. stockpiles are too low. They would have included artillery shells and Patriot air defense missiles. Ukraine's been urgently requesting more Patriots to protect its cities from Russian attacks. The White House spokesperson said the decision put America's interest first. Recapping on your top stories, a military helicopter from the African Union peacekeeping mission in Somalia crashed at the airport in the capital, Mogadishu. On its X account, state-run Sona news outlet reported that the helicopter from the African Union Support and Stabilization Mission in Somalia was carrying 8 personnel when it crashed during landing. Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Ntsinzi.
SABC News. The African Perspective. Languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertising.
It's 6 minutes past 10 Central Africa time. It's the second hour of On the Move with myself, Palesa and Benjamin Moshatama, coming to you live from our SABC studios here in Johannesburg, South Africa. But you can tap in no matter where you are on the continent and the world over on the SABC Plus app. It's a great and handy app. Loads of content from this same building here, the SABC, where there's TV, radio, and other news content and entertainment content there as well. But you can find Channel Africa on the SABC Plus app under the radio section and tune in. But we're also on our website, loads to see there as well, www.channelafrica.co.za. Our audio bouquets are also DSTV channel 802 and OpenView HD channel 628. So there are no excuses why you shouldn't be here. And if you know someone who's not here because you're here right now, go there and let them know that Channel Africa is on and we are on the move. We're speaking about mental health in this hour of the show, and particularly OCD. And I know what you're thinking. Every time you think about OCD, you think about, hey, this is, a one that is okay, everyone always says, I'm so OCD. And we're like, oh, okay, why do people say that? So we're going to tap into that a little bit later on. But for now, we're going to go into our Live Well feature where we speak about drug addiction. Last week was International Day Against Drug Abuse. And it's actually harrowing here in South Africa. I'll speak about, this context because we see drug users here, or the assumption of people being drug users around South Africa each and every day. And it seems like it's a pandemic of its own that continues to grow, especially in our township areas here in South Africa. And it is quite sad because these people, they're a part of your community, and you saw the potential that they could have had and the future that they could have had, but you see it withering away day by day. And you just wish that they could go to rehab, right? Like, why don't you just fix yourself? And these are people who are not just in our communities, they're in our families. And you're like, I know you've got such great potential. You can do amazing things with your life. I know you're so smart. Why can't you just leave the drugs? And it is a sad thing because it takes a big pathway and a very challenging pathway to go into recovery. So we're going to be speaking a little bit about that with Kurt van Heerden, founder and CEO of the Center of Transformation, about a different model of sobriety that we're going to be tapping into in this hour.
Yeah, that conversation is so important. And I said it was cool earlier on, not to diminish it, but the fact that we don't talk a lot about drug use. And it's happening in our communities. Like I was saying a few years ago, when I saw this very huge phenomenon in my community, there was just like a group of guys who used to just hang out in the streets. And you're like, where are these guys coming from? And all of a sudden, because we use taxis and we use a minibus taxi system here in South Africa, where many people occasionally catch taxis within a township context, and you wait in the street, different people wait and line up in different parts of your township and wait for the same taxi. And these guys would come and stop the taxi for you as it drives past. And I would be like, why are we allowing these people to do this? Because what would happen if the guy stops the taxi for you, and this person is an addict, right, would actually get money from the taxi. Maybe it's a small change, like penny amounts, and they would get the money from the taxi guy. And I'm like, why are we doing this? Because we're actually feeding this addiction. So as time goes, I would actually find ways to run away from these guys and find a spot where there's none of them so I can catch a taxi, because I feel like in our communities, we have kind of accepted that these are addicts in our communities and they are what they are. And at times I feel like we don't think about that. We can at times indirectly support their habits. I don't know about you. Maybe I'm taking it to the extreme, but I was very conscious not to be giving them money in any sort of ways. I was very conscious of actually not supporting them getting money. Even when I was getting in a taxi, I would ask the taxi driver, please don't give him money, because you see this is an addict. Okay, of course, sometimes I'll be like, who's this kid? Why does he have this opinion? But obviously, all I'm trying to make is a point to say, at times in our communities, drug addicts are around us, and we're not careful enough to think about how we leverage our money, yes, our income, our money, because sometimes it's happening even in our families. You can have a drug addict in your family, and navigating that, okay, I'm going to give them money because they have a need, versus like, no, actually this money is not going to a need, it's going to the drug addiction. It's so many things to navigate. So we'll be speaking about this just in a few minutes time. Just stay with us.
Zochitika ndimodapiri kamlondola wazochitika pena paliponse.
Nduna wazamalonda kumalawi waletsa kampani yopanga shuga ya Irovo yomwe ndi nthambi ya Irovo Sugar Group Limited kuti isiye kutumiza shuga kumaiko akunja. Malingana ndi nduna yazamalonda Vitumbuko Mumba, izi zithandiza kuti shuga yemwe yakusowa pamsika azipezeka. Ndiye pano ndili ndi George Muhangu amene ali mu mzinda wa Blantyre mu dziko la Malawi. Chimene chikupangitsa kuti shuga azisowa ndi chani?
Chomwe chikupangitsa kuti shuga azisowa ndichonena kuti panopo ili ngati off season ya makampani a Irovo Sugar Malawi kunena kuti sakutha kupanga shugayi okwanira chifukwa akukolora. Ndiye akamaliza kukolora pamene atayambe tsopano kugaya shugayi kuti azipezeka. Chinanso ndichonena kuti ma distributors amene akumakagula sugar kaya ndi ku Irovo kaya ndi kusalima sugar akumagulisa ku maiko akunja ngati Zambia, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, Mozambique.
Zochitika ndi madaphiri lolemba mpaka lachisanu pa nthawi ya 7 koloko kufikira 8 koloko madzulo pa Channel Africa.
Annie Kalonji sur Channel Africa.
Nous allons à présent dérouler notre tapis rouge pour accueillir notre personnalité du jour, l'artiste chanteur Sheikh Frey, qui est en ligne de Guinée avec nous.
Je suis un artiste guinéen, un créateur, un styliste, et je fais un peu ce qui plaît à mes fans. Voilà, c'est un peu ça. On a beaucoup de genres de trucs à faire, mais bon, pour le moment, on est basé un peu sur le rap.
D'accord. À quelle période de votre vie avez-vous commencé à vous intéresser à la musique, Sheikh?
Bon, je crois pas qu'il y ait une période, parce que moi, je suis un mélomane depuis mon petit âge.
Annie Kalonji, tous les dimanches sur Mix Vibration.
Keeping you on the know and on the move.
There's nothing sadder than going to your community, seeing the young people that, we all have hopes and dreams for. And that's what happens in a community setting, right? We see young people from the time that they're, small, and we see them grow up and we see how bright they are. We see all their different characters and we think, wow, there must be a future there somewhere. And then you come back to that community a few years later and you find that those same brilliant young people who are now addicted to drugs. And drugs can really ruin the trajectory of someone's life. And you look at them and the first thing you think is like, why can't you just fix this? Why can't you just leave the drugs, go to rehab and, go back on your life? Because, nothing, it's never too late. You can always sort of fix your life and get back on, a better path. But it's actually not that easy at all. I mean, especially as crystal meth, what we call nyaope, alcohol and polysubstance abuse has spiraled out of control all across the continent. And I'll speak in the context of South Africa. Literally almost every street corner you go to, you might find someone there who has a drug addiction. But developed over a decade ago, there's a model that rejects the outdated 30-day fix and offers a long-term, trauma-informed and holistic rehabilitation and reintegration approach that's showing measurable and real-world results. We're going to be speaking a little bit about this particular model. We're chatting to Kurt van Heerden, founder and CEO of the Center of Transformation, about this particular drug rehabilitation model. Thank you so much for your time, Kurt. And I'm sure there is so much work that a center like yourself needs to do as we see the continuation of a surge of drug abuse all across the country.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me here. Just hearing your introduction and you speaking about what's happening within our communities and the once child who wasn't addicted, where we would see dreams, hopes, and aspirations. And years down the line, when you meet that same young person, it's not the case. Hearing you and hearing how you've introduced me on the show definitely makes us conclude that we are dealing with a mammoth task in front of us. And that task cannot be tackled within 30 days.
Absolutely. And speaking about the task being tackled within 30 days or the task being tackled all, our first thought process when we see, drug addicts who are really everywhere these days, everywhere you go in South Africa, you find someone who with the assumption that, they're doing drugs. And then the first thing you think about is, you can actually fix this. Why don't you go to rehab? So why isn't it that simple?
Because rehab does not change individuals. It's the program that's facilitated within the rehab that changes individuals. That's what we must understand. Many times we think that rehab is the answer. Rehab is not the answer. It's what happens within the rehab that helps us get the answers to the questions that we are looking for.
Yeah, well, let's speak about going into rehab because obviously it takes a very intentional decision for someone who has an addiction to fix it and go to rehab. But so many times those who do go to rehab come back and they relapse over and over again. In fact, we're seeing it as a public spectacle in some moments. There is a famous drug user that we see on social media here in South Africa. He goes by the name of Alostro. And just a couple of years ago, there's a man who has a rehabilitation center who took him in, and he had spent years on rehabilitation, and we're there cheering on social media. Oh my goodness, he looks so much better. He looks good. He looks coherent. And now, literally a few weeks ago, we go back on social media and this individual called Alostro is back on the streets. Once again, back to drugs, even after years of being in rehab.
The question that we must ask is not how long he was in the rehab. It's what program was facilitated with him during his process of rehabilitation. And also, if he done more than just gone through the program, did he actually go through the program? Many times we try and keep individuals away from addiction in a rehab for X amount of years. And we believe that it's the years that changes them. But it's not the years that changes them. It's the transformation that happens within them that changes them. Most people don't understand that you don't change an addict by trying to modify their behavior. You change an addict by transforming their inner system. And the inner system really deals with their nervous system. How does their nervous system work? What have they gone through as a child? What's that intergenerational trauma that has been passed down to them? And unless we deal with the inner nervous system and understand how that works, all we are literally doing is putting a comma on the addict's addiction and not a full stop.
Wow. Well, that's really new information to most of us when we think about it, because usually when you think about things like the nervous system, we think about maybe programs, first of all, that would cost quite a lot, but really that don't exist in many of our societies. So, really quickly before we go on a break, I do want to start unpacking what the Center of Transformation has launched and the new rehabilitation pioneering model that you guys have implemented. But let's speak about what a normal rehabilitation center or environment actually looks like and how they usually try to treat addiction.
So we have the famous 30-day model, and the reason why that's not successful is because we're sitting with a 60 to 70% relapse rate in South Africa as a result of that 30-day model, and it takes about 3 months to 9 months for the brain to develop a new neural pathway. So anything less than 3 months is literally setting up the addict for disappointment, but also identifying what is that new neural pathway that's being created for the addicted addict, or are they just being isolated in reference to you have to stay sober for so many years because that will be the measuring stick we'll use for your status of sobriety within the community. And that often ends up in disappointment. So what we have developed is a model that is 6 to 9 months. And in that 6 to 9 months, we deal with various type of topics that literally deals with the intergenerational trauma that the individual has gone through, and understanding if it does not stop with that individual, that intergenerational trauma will be passed on to the next generation.
Wow. Well, let's find out a little bit more about this new model, Kurt, after the break. Stay with us on the line. We're speaking to the founder and CEO of the Center of Transformation about a new rehabilitation model that they've started implementing. Kurt van Heerden will keep joining us and tell us more about this after the break.
Africa, it's time to plug into the heartbeat of the continent. Tune in to Channel Africa, your go-to radio station that broadcasts in 5 different languages.
L'Afrique du Sud célèbre la journée nationale du
Kabla hujaitwa kwa jina la Double K or more of our forests have been destroyed.
Partido Africano da Independência da Guiné.
See, Channel Africa represents every corner of this amazing land. From Lagos to Cape Town, Nairobi to Dakar, we've got you covered with the freshest news, music, and cultures. So, turn up the volume, feel the rhythm. And join the conversation. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Palesa and Benjamin fuel your day with fresh African perspective on Channel Africa.
Well, Kurt van Heerden joins us today, founder and CEO of the Center of Transformation, and we're speaking about the rejection of an outdated 30-day fix rehabilitation model. And Kurt says they've come up with a more durable long-term solution. Let's talk a little bit about that long-term solution that you are talking about. How did you design it? What kind of investigation did you make to actually make sure that you're also not going into the same trajectory as this 30-day fix that you are not for?
So what we've done over the last decade is obviously we've helped individuals from various different walks of life, individuals that has been addicted to various different types of substances. And engaging with these individuals as a team over the years, we've identified why they have gone through their relapse cycles over the years. And we have literally allowed their experience to become the reference we've used to draft up a program that not only deals with the addiction, but also with the person. Because a program needs to be twofold. You're dealing with the person who is an addict, but then you also deal with the person who had an experience. And that experience often is not what rehabs deal with, because the experience as it relates to the person is different for each person, even though they might be booking in for the same substance abuse. So that's why in our program within, for example, in our first month, we have what we call a relationship building process. In that relationship building process, we identify why this person is here more than just being here for their addiction. And then for the remainder of the stay, we understand that we need to draft up a program that is tailor-made for their need, not just for the reason that they find themselves being here in our facility as it relates to their addiction. It is imperative that we identify what do we need to do for this person who is broken more than this person who is addicted.
Okay, tell us a little bit about how do you do that practically?
So basically what we do is we take them through a month one. Month one, we have a specific theme. Like I said, now it will be relationship building process. And then with that, we have subsidiary topics as it relates to the theme for that month every single week. That is what we do every single month for 6 to 9 months. So there is a generic program that we take everybody through that deals with their addiction, be it Nyaupe, be it Mandrax, be it crystal meth, whatever the drug is. But then there's one that we tailor make for the individual that runs parallel with that program for 6 to 9 months that deals with the specific need of that person. For example, if that person books in and his wife is on the verge of divorcing him because of his drug addiction, how we deal with him is very different to how we would deal with someone who books in and who is not married, who doesn't have children, who is himself still a child. That individualistic program there is different as it relates to the same program they will be booked into practically to help them with their addiction.
Okay, you spoke a little bit about the personal narrative of the addict. Why is it so important?
It's extremely important because the problem did not create the addiction. Addiction created the problem. And beneath every person is a problem that they first encountered. And they did not know how to solve the problem. That's why they ran to addiction. So the personal narrative helps us identify what the problem is that this person tried to resolve by choosing addiction as the outlet. So trying to deal with addiction independent of the personal discovery of who that person is, we are going to by default just allow that person to stay sober, but still leave them broken as a person.
Yeah. And people have various stories, and people have various histories. And each one, I'm sure, is hard to dissect and to, dissect and dismantle and put together into pieces. Feels like a lot of work. How do you do it in a way whereby it's not overweighing the work that you're doing as an organization? It doesn't become too cumbersome, honors your practitioners as well.
I love the fact that you're saying it sounds like a lot of work. And I think the reason why most are not doing it is simply because you cannot, it's impossible to deal with long-term problems on a short-term solution. So yes, it is work. It's tedious, but it has to be done. And what we have done over the years now is develop a team that currently also are being upskilled by professionals in the field of trauma and somatics. Because we've understood that unless we upskill our team constantly on a regular basis, we will find ourselves being antiquated in our model as it relates to the growing need and demand of addiction within the life of the individuals that books into our program. So yes, it's a lot of work, but because of the systematic approach that we take, we understand what needs to be done today, what needs to be done in a week, and what needs to be accomplished in a month. So literally, we take this mammoth task, we break it down into smaller chunks, and we take it step by step.
Does it always work, or have you had instances where there's failures and you had to revisit the structure of the program itself to see where there are pitfalls?
Most definitely, yes, because there are some individuals that books into the program that has no desire to find inner healing. All they want to find is the reconciliation of relationships that's been broken because of their addiction. So they don't book in to find inner healing. They just book into the program to find recovery. So the problem that became the reason why they used in the first place is not what was resolved in the program.
Mhm.
So they booked in and all they wanted to find was recovery. So they manipulate their way through the process because they want a job back, they want a wife back, they want relationships that was broken back because of addiction. So when they get that back, they reintegrate it back with the same problem that's not resolved. Therefore, and that relationships again does not work out the way they thought it would. The problem is still there. Therefore, they reinvent their past and they book back into the facility. We have seen that.
And what do you do when that happens?
We take them through the same process because you cannot dictate how someone must change. you cannot dictate how honest someone must be. And unless the person books in from a reference point of honesty and desperation, then true change happens. But if they're going to book in on the premise of manipulation, trying to use the rehab not as a womb to rebirth themselves, but as a waiting room to restore relationships through manipulation, they will bear the consequences of that within and of themselves. So the structure stays the same, the love we give them stays the same. The onus is on the person to come to the conclusion, I need to want this, and I need to want it bad enough to change within myself and not to change to restore relationships so I can manipulate my way back into it again.
Well, we have to leave it there. It's fascinating. And I think that is very interesting because patience is something that we don't give addicts. We want that transformation in their lives because we're desperate for them to change. But we know that it also make our lives better the sooner they change. Where can we go to find out more about the Center of Transformation?
So you can visit our website on www.cotsa.co.za, or you can also visit us on any one of our social media handles, Center of Transformation. On those social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, you'll find out more about what it is that we do on a daily basis. But as I said, alternatively, you can also visit our website. That's www.cotsa.co.za.
Thank you so much, Kurt, and keep doing the good work.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
That's Kurt van Heerden, founder and CEO of the Center of Transformation. Speaking about a model that really outpaces the 30-day fixed model, and it seems to aim to be more comprehensive than a time-fixed method. What's your take on that one? +2763 406 9126. That's where you can WhatsApp us. Well, let's move on to our sports update. I've been following Wimbledon. Some of the biggest top 10s are out. Coco Gauff is out of Wimbledon. Medvedev is out. Zverev is out of Wimbledon. It is such a wonderful, unexpected turn. Let's find out more what's happening in other sports news.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
And a very good morning from the Sports Desk. I am Musibudi Makura with the latest sports news at the Sawa. We'll start with rugby news. So in case you missed it, Springbok midfielder Jesse Creel's audition as captain of the Springboks was a successful one last weekend against the Barbarians, so much so that he will lead the side into battle and officially become the 67th captain of the Springboks as they go in search of glory against Italy, the Azzurri side at Loftus Versfeld in the country's capital city this coming Saturday. So Creel is in because the regular captain Siya Kolisi withdrew from last weekend's match on the eve of the game with a stiff neck and is still struggling with a few niggles as well, but there is little cause for concern in the Bog camp at the moment. Coach Rassie Rasmus also said that Kolisi had a stiff Achilles and has decided now as a precaution to keep him out of this game and let Marco van Staden, who came into the last minute for him just last week, start again for his 26th test match. Now the Boks will hand an official start to Vincent Chituka after he also played his first match for the Green and Gold just last weekend, while there are also returns from Andre Pollard as well as Damon Willemse in the back line and at start for Morne van der Berg. Up front is Lou de Jager, who makes his official return to Test rugby after 2 years on the sidelines, while Wilkolo is a tight head prop after a URC season where he was quite sensational there for his side. On to football news now. Uganda's dream of finally progressing past the group stages at the 2024 Total Energies African Nations Championship tournament has started in earnest as the country's football federation has now unveiled a 41-man provisional squad for this year's tournament. Now co-hosting the championship for the first time alongside neighbours Kenya as well as Tanzania, the Cranes are keen now to capitalise on home ground advantage when the tournament kicks off on the 2nd of August. Now the head coaches of the side, Fred Muhumuza as well as Morley Buyekwaze, will lead the charge, and all selected players are locally based as per tournament regulations. Now the squad also features stars exclusively from the Ugandan Premier League, except for the surprise inclusion of James Boroge of Masaka Sunshine FC, who plies his trade in the regional format of the league. Further afield now, Olivier Giroud will return to French football for the first time since 2012 after signing a one-year deal with Ligue 1 club Lille on Tuesday. The 38-year-old France all-time record goal scorer left the MLS side, the Los Angeles FC side, just last week. Giroud last played in the French top flight for Montpellier, winning the 2011-2012 Ligue 1 title before leaving for Arsenal. Giroud spent about 6 seasons with Arsenal, scoring more than 100 goals for the London Giants before signing for Chelsea, with whom he won the 2021 Champions League title with. He then went on to spend 3 seasons with AC Milan in Italy, lifting the Serie A crown in 2022 before also making a move to the USA. Giroud retired, we'd remember, from international football just last year with a record of 57 goals and 137 appearances for France, and also won the 2018 FIFA World Cup with the national team. On to tennis news now. African wheelchair tennis champion Alwandis Kosana is overjoyed after clinching his first 2025 title at the ITF Futures in the International Wheelchair Series in Johannesburg. Now, Kosana marched to a convincing 6-2, 6-love win over Germany's Anthony Detmar on Monday to claim his first singles title on home soil after 6 years. Kosana says the tournament has been crucial to help him accumulate ranking points ahead of major events on the wheelchair tennis calendar this year.
Well, it feels absolutely amazing for me to win both titles, making it the first title of year 2025. And I think it was really important for me as a top-seeded player to win these titles, not for me to celebrate them, but to collect the points, which will help me improve my ranking. And I think that's my biggest priority right now.
So Skosana will begin his European tour in less than 2 weeks, starting with the Flanders Open, followed by the Belgian as well as the Australian Open. He also says he's quite happy with the build-up and also feels positive going into the upcoming events.
confident that I'm going to do well as well. And also just knowing that I actually using these tournaments as a warm-up tournament before my European tour, I think I'm also looking forward to that. Very positive that I'm going to do well, and I will, do my best as I did in these tournaments.
And that's a wrap from the Sports Desk at the Sawa. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, send us an email, newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or call us on +27 11714 4459. For Channel Africa Sport, I am Musibu D. Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Es-tu préoccupé par quelque chose? Es-tu passionné par les questions qui comptent? As-tu une voix qui mérite d'être entendue? Eh bien, nous avons la plateforme parfaite pour toi. Téléphone-nous ou fais-nous un WhatsApp au +27 66 408 87 42 et nous te rappellerons. Sois dans la conversation.
Salut Channel Africa, ici Beno le diamant rouge et Bina l'export depuis le Cameroun, le pays des lions. Voilà.
Sois dans la conversation. Il ne s'agit pas seulement de parler, mais c'est ta chance d'exprimer ton point de vue, de partager tes opinions et de t'engager avec une communauté qui valorise ton avis. Suivez-nous sur les réseaux sociaux, visitez notre site www.channelafrica.co.za et préparez-vous à partager vos points de vue sur Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
Tune in and turn up the volume. This is Channel Africa.
All right, let's move on to business news with Chanduko Ligege.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Thank you, Benjamin and Palesa. Good morning once again. Egypt's Petroleum Ministry says that it has received a report from oil and gas production company offshore Shakir Oil Company, or SOCO, about a capsized drill ship in the Gulf of Suez. The ministry says the drill ship, identified as Adam Marine 12, is located in Gabal El Zayed in the Red Sea, which is Egypt's vital trade route and is one of Egypt's prominent oil production sites in the Red Sea. The incident is not expected to cause disruptions for navigation in the canal. According to authorities, at least 4 were confirmed killed. So far, 6 missing and 21 others were rescued. A Ghanaian organization fighting against illegal mining, known as Fight Against Galamsey, says Chinese nationals are to blame for the rampant problem of illegal gold mining. Known as Galamsey, China's ambassador to Ghana, Tong Defa, has since pushed back against accusations that Chinese nationals are solely to blame for illegal mining activity, saying Chinese nationals could not obtain local mining licenses and were often brought in by Ghanaians who facilitated the illegal mining operations. Mustafa Band is part of the fight against Galamsey in Ghana.
We are not just blaming the Chinese, we are holding them responsible for the destruction of our forest reserves and our water bodies through mining. And it suffices to say that in as much as we cannot hold the entire China-Ghana relationship in contempt, we believe that a lot of Chinese nationals who have come to Ghana have been part of the very devastating situation that have affected our lands and our natural resources.
The South African Revenue Service, SARS, says the country has recorded a preliminary trade balance surplus of $1.2 billion in May, which has been attributable to an increase in exports, which is inclusive of trade with Botswana, Eswatini, Lesotho, and Namibia. Import flows increase on the back of higher imports of crude oil, artificial corundum, and telephone sets, including smartphones and other telephones. Trade analyst Viwen Jongwana elaborates.
Well, the commodities that are at play, madam, are citrus is one of them, gold and platinum. So that is those are the commodities that we can look at. But then also, I think what is quite interesting and inspiring for me are the customs union, the countries that are at play, which are Botswana, Eswatini, Lesotho, and Namibia. And I think for me, it can be a sample of what intra-African trade could look like in the future if we take it more seriously.
Some South Africans in the hospitality sector say that while the upcoming G20 summit will contribute to the economy, it must be used to change the optics and showcase the countries in a positive light. Scores of guests will descend on South Africa this November for the international forum that brings together the world's major economies to discuss global financial issues. The Africa Travel and Tourism Association, ATA, estimates that the summit will bring in $68 million to the economy. Managing Director for Africa at Radisson Hotel Group, Sandra Kanubela, explains.
South Africa is one of the most genuinely friendly countries in the world to visit, and you hear it again and again and again from so many different people. And so many travelers comment on how nice it is to visit South Africa and how welcoming and friendly our people are. And I think that is that's our superpower as a country, if I'm honest, and we should never, ever lose that. So I think that plays a huge role. I think the other thing, it's hugely underpinned by South Africa's constitution, which is one of the most progressive in the world, where we genuinely welcome everyone from every walk of life.
Uganda will require fuel distributors to blend locally produced ethanol into all petrol sold in the country starting next year, a measure that could reduce the East African nation's petroleum import bill. Uganda imports about $2 billion worth of petroleum products annually. It handed over exclusive rights for the supply of all such products to a unit of global energy trader Vitol in 2023. According to Uganda's Energy Ministry, the blending program is also part of government's policy to promote clean energy, as bioethanol can help in efforts to reduce carbon emissions. Let's have a look at financial indicators at this hour. $1 in Nigeria is at 1,000 Naira 534, Botswana 13 Pula 16, Kenya the dollar is at 128 shilling 586, Zambia 23 Kwacha 85. BRICS countries, $1 in Brazil is at 5 Real 44, Russia 78 rubles 36, India 85 rupee 58, China 71.15, South Africa 62. $1 is 72 pence to the British pound and 84 to the euro. Commodities, gold is at $3,335, platinum at $1,352 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil at $67.12 a barrel. That is all. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email, newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or you can call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I am Chandruko Ligege.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. Start your day right with Channel Africa Breakfast.
That smells delicious.
Live, 5 days a week. No time to waste. Be on the move with Benjamin Moshatama and Palesa. Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa. Partner with Channel Africa, because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent. African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized.
7 Central Africa time. We're having good music and good vibes right here on Channel Africa. And as usual, we're making sure that we give you that African perspective.
Yeah, man, that's Magic XX and that one titled Love Don't Cost a Dime featuring Iris Star.
You know, I've been through the most this week when it comes to social media. I made a discovery, and it is a rabbit hole that I've gone down, something that I really didn't know existed, but it's incredible. You know, we were just speaking about AI in the first hour, and there's this thing called brain rot. So essentially, brain rot, the term itself in the formalized way, just means that, you know, really nonsensical time on social media or time online, nonsensical time online, you know, interacting with nonsensical things. When you don't really have to think or use your brain cells, then that's called brain rot.
All right.
Right? And as I was scrolling up my TikTok, I came across something called tung 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 sahur and things that I never heard. I'm like, what language?
You can't introduce a term and then just what is the name?
I know.
Of the
What language? You find out. I'm like, what language are these people speaking? Okay. And then I went down a rabbit hole of something called Italian brain rot, which are AI characters. So AI cartoon characters that have different things sort of put in them, like an elephant with cactus skin and wearing sandals, like a ballerina with a cappuccino head.
So morphed characters.
That are on social media, but they also have storylines. But what also that I found that was incredible about all these brain rot characters is that children and old people, you know, were interacting with them alike. But I also don't think they're particularly kid friendly. So first, let me introduce you to those characters, and you're going to find out a little bit more about the stories of these characters after this.
Trallallero trallallà, tung 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 sahur,
What is going
bombardino
on,
crocodilo, la vacca Saturno Saturnita, brr brr patapim, lirili larila, ballerina cappuccina, oi oi oi,
What is going on?
Bandito,
I know, that's what I thought.
Burr baloni lulilolli, capibarello cocossini.
So that's the first thing I thought. What is going on? So here are these characters. I'm going to introduce you to some of the main characters of Italian brain rot. Yes, I know what they're saying.
Okay.
So the characters are like this. There is Tralalelo Tralala. And Tralalelo Tralala is a 3-legged shark in blue Nike trainers. And Tralalelo Tralala doesn't swim like an ordinary shark.
Okay.
He walks the ocean floor in his Nike sneakers.
Wow.
Tralalelo Tralala has a war with Crocodilo Bombarino. So that's Bombardiro Crocodilo.
Okay.
Bombardiro Crocodilo is a plane, a fighter jet, which bombs people with the head of a crocodile.
Wow.
So this is a hybrid between a crocodile and a bomber plane. And he has a fight with our first character, Tralalilo Tralala. Right? And then there's also this beautiful main character called Ballerina Cappuccina. This is a graceful ballet dancer with a cappuccino for a head.
I knew there was a cappuccino.
Yes.
There. What's the name of it?
Ballerina Cappuccina.
Yeah.
And Ballerina Cappuccino doesn't fight like like most of the characters, but Ballerina Cappuccino is married to cappuccino assassino,
All right.
who is a cappuccino in a closed lid that has 2 knives. He's an assassin.
Okay.
But
Gets worse.
But Ballerina Cappuccina also is an ex to Tung 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 Sahur.
Who's Tung? This is what I was very curious about.
Yes, so Tung
I was
Tung
more
Tung.
interested in Tung 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 Sahur.
Tung 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 Sahur is the silent wooden bat who appears during pre-dawn meals. And they also have fights with, obviously, she's the ex of Ballerina Cappuccino.
Tung Tung Tung.
Tung 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 Sahur is the ex of Ballerina Cappuccino. And that's why him and the current partner of Ballerina Cappuccino, being Cappuccina Assassino, have a fight as well.
And all I could say to that, tra-la-la.
Tra-la-la. And some of the other characters are like chimpanzee.
Okay, no, we're done. No, Palesa. No, enough.
You sure you don't want to find out?
No.
It's half banana, half monkey.
I was done at Tung Tung Tung. I'm like, I don't want to hear another.
Look, I now have this
funny name.
I now have this incredible rabbit hole that I've gone down.
Yeah,
with
no,
these-
we not.
with these
Don't get us
brain
in there.
rot
We don't want to be in your brain.
Please come
Keep
in.
it.
Please come in. These characters are insanely funny, but I also don't think that they are for children at all because of their characters.
When I said
personalities.
tra-la-la, I wanted you to wrap up.
It's 10:52 Central Africa time. Sometimes we go through weird things on social media.
What a conundrum.
Africa, meet Abedi.
Yeah, that's me.
Abedi is a music lover through and through.
I really love African music.
He's got a taste for all kinds of tunes and spends his days listening to Channel Africa. Guess what? He didn't know.
Okay.
Channel Africa wants to help Abedi and all music lovers everywhere to discover even more incredible music. That is why Channel Africa is calling on all African musicians to submit their music. Musicians, remember to give us all your relevant information. Make your submissions at music@channelafrica.co.za. Submissions are your chance to be heard on radio. But sadly, they do not guarantee that you will be playlisted. All submissions will be carefully reviewed to see if they meet our station's requirement. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Step into the heart of the day on the move with Palesa and Benjamin. Accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa. Partner with Channel Africa because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent. African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices. English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa. Partner with Channel Africa because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel.
Called Ta 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 by Payani.
Maybe they're also a brain rot song.
It is interesting that, I just searched this Italian brain rot.
Yeah.
Like, what is it there for? Like, it's fascinating.
Yeah, it's literally...
Even people know their names.
Yes, and there's so many different characters. And the thing is, there's probably going to be new characters all the time because they're literally made up figures. But why do they have to be like so violent? A lot of them have like violence as part of their...
But guys, cartoons have always been violent. I mean, I used to watch Power Rangers.
True. I mean, yes, you're right.
She-Ra was violent.
Yeah. Even the Powerpuff Girls were violent.
Absolutely. So there's violence every... I don't know, where's this new thing? Well, I think so violent.
Yeah.
Like they've always been violent. Cartoons have always been violent.
Wow. Yeah. So yeah, I mean,
Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, true. It's definitely though a huge rabbit hole. The first time I came across it, like, what is this?
Yeah.
The names are really weird.
Yeah. Well, that's a good one. We're going to be speaking about OCD just in the next hour. What's your take on OCD? Do you have OCD, the human OCD? The normal OCD?
No. Okay. I don't have any form of, even, the trivialized type that we speak about.
If I drop like a chocolate, I'll pick it up.
Like, and I'll eat it. Like it's okay. like I'm alright. I'm alright with that. And I think I've also just told my son that it's always not, things are not always like a train smash, Like if he drops a glass in the house and then he breaks it, a lot of the time, you'll find out you're gonna be shocked. Just like just pick it up. It's a glass. It's okay as long as you're not hurt. Throw it out. Throw it out. We'll buy another one eventually. It's okay.
This is a question to ask Selena, actually, our producer. There's a saying in our Tswana culture whereby, when you drop something, your mom would say, just pick it up and eat it. But there's a saying behind it, like something dirty doesn't do something. Please remind me what that is. I don't know. I want to use it a little bit later. I remember there's a saying like that you can drop anything, just pick it up. Dirt doesn't kill.
Yeah, like you're going to be fine.
Like dirt doesn't kill. There's a Sotho Tswana saying around that. So but we're going to look at the more serious side of OCD because OCD can be very much dilapidating for many people. I think there was a period in time, I don't know if it was OCD or if I was paranoid, but literally I would walk out my flat and want to go back every time because but when you live alone, I'm sure you have moments like that happen all the time, right?
No, not for me.
Like when you did I switch off the iron?
Yeah.
Did I take out the plug out of the iron?
Yeah, if it's something dangerous like that, maybe. It's just like, I remember ironing, but I don't remember
taking out the plug. you have moments like that, right?
Yeah.
But people with OCD, we're not making fun of them. They actually have that on a repetitious cycle, and it can really be hurtful to their lives. And we're going to be talking about how do you deal with that if you do have it, and also the culture of normalizing OCD. Is it harmful to real OCD patients? Because, I'm wondering if there's also a cure, and is the cure medicinal or is the cure therapy? I don't know a lot about OCD. We speak about OCD like we do actually know it, but there's so many few things that we don't know around it. Have you met someone who really, really, really goes through OCD, like real OCD, not someone who just doesn't like dirty surfaces, but real OCD? Have you experienced that? Let us know on our WhatsApp number +2763 4069126. Hey, Onel Ntinti is back with us. She's going to give us our latest morning news.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Benjamin. Looking at your top stories this hour. Nigeria's opposition faces growing uncertainty, and the Dalai Lama confirms he will have a successor. Your latest news. Greetings to our listeners. Nigeria's opposition is facing growing uncertainty ahead of the 2027 general elections, with fresh cracks emerging in the newly formed All Democratic Alliance. Former Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi has confirmed he will contest the election, but has ruled out the possibility of running on a joint ticket with the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. The decision has stirred debate about the future of the alliance, which was meant to unite key opposition figures under one front. Political analyst Austin Aigbe explains.
The Nigerians are looking for an alternative, that what they need is not a PDP as an opposition. What they need is not a Labour Party as an opposition. They don't even need an NPP. Those are the three major parties who ran against the APC in 2023. As of this time, they are no longer viable because the opposition has been literally diminished. So a new party is what may likely wrestle power in 2027. So the alternative is that if the ADA is not registered, we will go with ADC. But I think the essence of registering a new political party will be better for them.
A military helicopter from the African Union peacekeeping mission in Somalia crashed at the airport in the capital Mogadishu. On its X account, State Ranson, a news outlet, reported that the helicopter from the African Union Support and Stabilization Mission in Somalia was carrying 8 personnel when it crashed during landing. Our SOM has more than 11,000 personnel in Somalia to help the country's military counter Islamist group Al-Shabaab. The Al-Qaeda affiliate has been fighting for nearly 2 decades to topple Somalia's internationally recognized government and establish its own rule based on a strict interpretation of the Sharia law. The acting mayor of Johannesburg in South Africa, Kenny Kunene, is expected to resume operations that are targeting hijacked buildings in the city's central business district today. Yesterday, Kunene and law enforcement officers raided hijacked buildings in Marshalltown, which led to the arrest of over 40 undocumented foreign nationals. The operations are part of the revitalization plan that is approved by the Memorial Committee in March as a coordinated effort to reclaim the inner city. Kunene explains.
The purpose was to enforce bylaws, but also to disconnect illegally connected electricity and water. And indeed, we achieved that. EMS has prepared a report after they did an assessment that the building is unsafe, the building is uninhabitable, and therefore the people must be evacuated. So we will go back to the building. I'm meeting with the MMC of Social Development to see if there's alternative shelter where we can then evacuate South Africans to.
Political analyst Ntsikelelo Breakfast says the Umkhonto Sizwe Party in South Africa needs to institutionalize democracy within its structures if it wants to achieve a positive electoral trajectory. This is, he says, decision-making in the party often centers around its leader and founder, Jacob Zuma, citing that it can be problematic. His comments come amid rising tension, which calls for the removal of some high-ranking party members. Breakfast says the MKP members appear to be hostile towards individuals who were not part of the party's formation.
It's an open secret. Decision-making revolves around former President Zuma. No doubt about that. That's why the letter was written to him. One of the letters, it was addressed to him. That is the problem. I don't think party members must accept that uncritical. They need to engage with that. Under normal circumstances, in a democracy, people must be free to express their views strongly about those issues. So now, if you must be sensitive to this person, that is not a democratic party. That is something else now. And that is going to affect the growth of the party.
The Tibetan Buddhist spiritual leader, the Dalai Lama, has confirmed that he will have a successor after his death. He made the long-awaited announcement in Dharamsala in northern India, where he lives in exile from Chinese rule. In a statement, the Dalai Lama said only the Garden Paul Foundation, which he founded, has the authority to recognize his future reincarnation. In response, the Chinese Foreign Ministry said the reincarnation of the Dalai Lama needed to be approved by China's central government. BBC's Samira Hussein elaborates.
The way that the tradition goes is that, a successor is going to be chosen upon his death. It's when they will find usually a young boy who will represent the reincarnation of this 14th Dalai Lama and then continue the work that he has already begun. Now what's going to happen is that the number of monks that have come from all over South Asia and internationally are going to gather and they're going to interpret that message. And then they will also keep in mind what it is that the Dalai Lama has said that he wants for his future.
Recapping on your top stories, Nigeria's opposition is facing growing uncertainty ahead of the 2027 general elections, with fresh cracks emerging in the newly formed All Democratic Alliance. Former Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi has confirmed that he will contest the elections, but has ruled out the possibility of running on a joint ticket with the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Nzinzi.
SABC News. The African Perspective. For Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent. African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift.
Fashionable when you want to give an impression that you are a neat freak, to say that you have OCD. It's very kind of fashionable, right? I have OCD. Even when you're complaining in a restaurant, the first thing you say, I have OCD. It's like a thing that people do all the time without really thinking about what is OCD. I don't think most of us even know what OCD is. I think we just like saying it because it's kind of trendy to say, and it's kind of a serious thing to say. Have you ever not taken someone who says they have OCD seriously? You do take them seriously. You literally say, okay, this person, I must be neat around them, right? But there are people who probably won't tell you that they're OCD and have OCD because it's one of the struggles that they have in life. And we're going to be speaking about what OCD is, obsessive compulsive disorder. It can impact people in a major way in their daily lives, from trying to actually make sure that everything around them is completely neat. Their workspaces are neat, but let's say the entire working environment is not to their standards. They struggle working in that environment. Other people have kind of patterns that they have to drive the same route every single day to reach a particular destination, because that familiar pattern is kind of a structure for them that allows them to cope with their day. And others are obsessive about certain things, like there's certain areas where they even struggle in terms of even their sexual preferences. They can be obsessive about, and it can actually be devastating for relationships. So it is very much different for each person, but it is very, very life altering. And not in a positive way.
Yeah. And you know what? It is quite life altering. And it's a conversation that we trivialize quite a lot, as you mentioned earlier. But what does it really mean to have OCD? And I know it presents itself in so many different ways. And many of us don't really understand what happens or how to be around someone who may have OCD. How do we support them? And how do you not see, some of their behaviors in that trivialized manner that we've gotten used to and we've stigmatized? So let's raise awareness in this hour of the show about OCD. That's what we're going to be doing. Speaking to Dr. Kitumetse Mashiro, who's a friend of On the Move and sports and clinical psychologist as well. Let's continue the conversations on our socials at Channel Africa One. Find us there on X. Use our hashtag On The Move. Find us there on Instagram. Check out all our cool pictures and what we get up to in our studios. But if you want a blow-by-blow action of what we're doing here, you can actually stream us live on YouTube as well as on Facebook. So let's continue making the Channel Africa circle bigger, and let's enjoy the next conversation.
Start your day right with Channel Africa Breakfast.
That smells delicious.
Live 5 days a week.
Je, una jambo lolote akilini mwako? Je, una shauku kuhusu maswala muhimu? Na je, una maoni ambayo unataka yasikike? Kweli, hili jukwaa ni la kwako. Piga simu au tuandikie kwenda WhatsApp namba alama ya kujumulisha 2760552594 na tutakupigia simu.
Mtangazaji wa habari zetu za Afrika Kusini mjini Johannesburg.
Hivyo unaweza kuwa mshirika kwenye matangazo yetu. Sio mazungumzo tu, ni fursa yako ya kuchangia maoni yako na kushirikiana na jumuiya ya wasikilizaji wanaotamani mtazamo wako. Tufuate kwenye mitandao ya kijamii. Tembelea tovuti yetu www.channelafrica.co.za na uwe tayari kushiriki na kuchangia maoni yako kwenye Channel Africa. Channel Africa, mtazamo wa Kiafrika.
Channel Africa and you have got something in common. The thirst for knowledge.
Hey, we live at a time where abbreviations are easily thrown around. Abbreviations can be easily simplified as well, especially those that have to do with mental conditions. And it's one of those pet peeves that I have, like throwing around like mental health statements and making them generic when it's actually very serious what we're talking about. OCD is one of those that we throw around very easily in conversations, and we use OCD as an adjective, and we don't really know that there are many people who are struggling with it as a disorder. We're speaking about obsessive compulsive disorder today, characterized by recurring unwanted thoughts and obsessions, repetitive behaviors, and can actually have a huge impact in daily life. People often wonder whether OCD can be cured or if we will have to manage it for the rest of our lives. When you do have OCD, what is the way to actually treat it? That we're going to be talking about it today with Dr. Gitumetsi Mashego, a sports and clinical psychologist. Doctor, welcome on the show.
Thank you for having me. Good to be back.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about OCDing. You know, it's so easy to say, I'm an OCD person. You have to serve me much better. This table is so dirty. Please call your manager. I want this sorted out because just this one stain here, I don't appreciate it. But that could be just a crutch for you because you just want better service and you're using something very serious to actually get your way. But OCD is something that can cripple many people's lives. It's not just generic and something that's just like hoo-ha that we can just use as an everyday term because we want a clean surface.
Definitely. OCD is one of the misused or overused and improperly used terms out there because people use it in their daily language or the things that they say daily and, own it as a badge of honor sometimes to say, I have OCD. But those who have OCD, I don't think they choose it. I don't think they want it. It's exhausting, it's debilitating. And for anything to be a disorder, it has to be causing severe dysfunction, meaning you struggle with basic things, right? Because you are diagnosed with the thing. For us to diagnose you with it, it means it's causing really severe malfunctioning in one area or another. Meaning someone, for example, who has, the compulsion to wash their hands because they, like 10 times, they will do that and they will not do it. They will not stop in the middle of it because they're late for work or they're late for a meeting. If they haven't completed that ritual of washing their hands 10 times, they will not leave that sink until it is done.
Hey, Dr. Gitumetsi, thank you for joining us on our live feed. It's good to see you there. We're streaming live, and I see you wearing your Oprah Winfrey cool glasses there. Let's talk a little bit about the OCD in terms of when it is serious, right? Because it's always serious, I think. But it's difficult to, figure it out because at times you think it's your mind playing games on you. At times it's just something not serious because the patterns that we're talking about are things that everyday people could actually have themselves. Like I used to have this big thing okay, that's why I don't iron in the morning anymore, because I would iron in the morning and I'd walk out and then on my way to work I'm like, did I really take out the iron? I can't remember. I remember ironing, but did I take it out of the plug? But it's not that simple. It's not that generic, right? It's actually something that becomes a routine that is something you cling onto as a way of surviving in your day. And it can actually cripple your day because you think if this thing doesn't get done the way I do it, then I'm not going to continue with the rest of the day. How do you distinguish the patterns that we have that can be easily seen as OCD to actually as a real OCD moment?
So maybe let's explain what OCD is, which is obsessive compulsive disorder,
sure.
Meaning there's an obsession, meaning someone has this obsessive thought, and usually it has patterns. So for some people, it's fear, let's take of germs, right? So that's a thought, that's a fear they have. It leads to a compulsive behavior. The compulsion, the compulsive behavior could be washing of hands 10 times. So it's almost like a ritual they perform in order to overcome the fear that they have of germs. So we need to understand that, it falls under the umbrella of anxiety disorders, meaning there's a severe anxiety, underlying anxiety that happens for this person. And with all the disorders, they run on a tangent, meaning you've got your severe, mild, moderate types of impact on a person, and hence you do get where it's very severe and a person is really not functioning. They need not only psychotherapy but medication as well. But what you've described where you're saying you iron and you don't recall, I always say to people that is different to OCD if, it's not necessarily, there's no ritualistic behavior that happens. It's more that when you're ironing, you're not present in that moment, right? So you are on soldier mode and you're ironing and you're not present, you're not mindful. Right? Maybe you're thinking about the traffic or thinking about work, you're there ironing and you get out of the house and on autopilot because you were already in the traffic in your mind when you were ironing. Then when you do get into the traffic, then you're wondering, did I actually, switch off that iron? So that's more not being mindful or present. So that's a lack of mindfulness more than it is OCD. It's more that, you were not present in that moment to create a core memory because you were preoccupied with traffic or the potential traffic that you're going into. And I always say to people that the mind is like a sponge. Whatever you feed it, it creates it as reality. So when you are imagining that traffic in your mind, it's really there, that traffic, even though you're not in the traffic physically. And when you are then, doing what you're doing while you're thinking of the traffic, you're not present with the iron. Therefore, that's why you don't recall. Sometimes it's locking the door. You're so thinking about the traffic or whatever it is, traffic from yesterday, you are bringing it into today. It becomes a real thing in your mind, in your reality. And when you do actually get out, you don't remember locking because you were not present in that kitchen.
Dr. Mashiko, is it common for people in our communities to go undiagnosed with OCD, and why would that be?
It's because it's psychological symptoms or disorders are sometimes things that we think are weird. Some people think it's crazy that that person is doing that, or we are dismissive of them and we think we must snap out of them, right? And so when someone is doing this, on the outside, it might not seem like it's such a big deal until, for example, you can see how it impacts this person. For example, if they're unable to wash their hands 10 times or to do certain things, in order to relieve that stress, that underlying anxiety that they're struggling with, hence they do have the symptoms of OCD because there's underlying anxiety. So it goes undiagnosed because I think people just cannot comprehend that someone will struggle with something that, such as a thought about something and it become so debilitating. So it's almost like a weird phenomena, but definitely it goes undiagnosed because people, and I think also they will say, snap out of it to that person, or they will deem them crazy when they are doing these rituals.
All right. I mean, we're going to talk a little bit more about how it manifests itself differently, and we've highlighted some of those ways that it manifests, but also how do you actually deal with it? Is it curable? Is there medication? Someone was like, is there medication for this, or do you need therapy around it? We'll talk a little bit about that, Dr. Kitumetse, after the break. Dr. Kitumetse Mashego joins us for our Live Well feature today. She's a sports and clinical psychologist. We'll continue after the break.
We are on Open Views Audio Bouquet. Channel 628. The Midnight Snack, 12 to 3 a.m.
Interracial relationships. And now you are based in the States and you are married to a beautiful white woman, white lady.
I learned that, for us in our culture, we literally can speak our mind. I remember when we had started dating and whatnot, and, she picked up like a little bit of weight. And maybe me, I was like, oh, wow, you must be happy in this relationship because look at you. You look great. You're even picking up some weight. And she got really, really offended. And it took I think it was about a couple of hours before I could realize that, because I could tell that she was off after that. And it took me a while to figure out what it was. Until later when I was talking to her, I'm like, you're really, really off today. And then she expressed that, yeah, because you're telling me that I'm picking on some weight. And I'm like, in my culture, when you are gaining some weight, it means you're happy. Yes. So that's what I was trying to imply.
The Midnight Snack, every Monday, 12 to 3 a.m. with Chanduko Ligege. Palesa and Benjamin fuel your day with fresh African perspective on Channel Africa.
We're unpacking OCD, commonly known as obsessive compulsive disorder this morning on The Move. Dr. Kitumetse Mashego continues to chat to us about this highly trivialized mental health condition, but also raising awareness on what exactly it is and how it works, but also the treatments that one who is diagnosed with OCD can have. I want to break this down a little bit, because usually when we say OCD, we see it as just one term meaning just one condition. But when you actually say the full word, obsessive compulsive disorder, you realize that there are actually more than one thing that's taking place at the time. So the obsessive stands for the obsessions that can take place, and compulsions might not actually be the same thing. So I'd like to look at those things separately. Could you explain obsessions versus compulsions to us and how those can manifest?
So the obsessions range, different people obsess over different things. As I said, it could be something that they are thinking, or fears, meaning someone could think, okay, before I cross the traffic light, I must look left and right 10 times before I actually cross. Right? That's a thought. And it could be that, maybe something has happened before or not, but it's this thing that they have developed that they need to do. So it's a thought that they have. It could be also a fear that one has that's obsessive, meaning with germs, right? So meaning everything that they see is germ. So before they touch anything, they probably are of view that this thing has germs. So how do I get rid of these germs before I touch this thing? And then the compulsive behavior or the ritual, right? That someone who must now, for example, who thinks I must look 10 times either side before I cross the traffic light, you will see them doing that literally before they cross. Even if they look the first time and it was empty or safe to cross, they still will not cross until they've done it 10 times.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's what they have told. They have sort of internalized that this is what will relieve me from whatever it is that I fear or the anxiety I have around this. I have to do it 10 times.
Yeah.
And that's where you realize that it's deeper than just someone who is careful about crossing the road. And then with the fear of contamination, then in that example, someone would want to wash their hands with a specific product and maybe specific number of times, meaning maybe as they are washing, they want to count to 10, some to 20 before they finish. So now you can imagine now if they don't have access to a basin, or maybe there's no water that day, right? Or the soap or the sanitizer they use is not there. You can imagine how they're going to feel. Now they're going to feel as if, so it's almost like when they do the ritual, it relieves them in a way for that moment until the next moment. Because it doesn't stop. It doesn't.
Yeah, I want to speak about impact on life, because some of these, the examples that you're giving us, I know there can be like 1,000 or millions of examples depending how these obsessions or compulsions manifest themselves for a particular individual. But one would say, okay, if you need to look 10 times before you cross a road, that doesn't sound like something that would really impact your life in a terrible way. So let's speak about that, the impact of life of OCD, and how bad that impact can get. Can life get unlivable with one who has OCD?
Definitely for themselves, actually, it can be just unbearable. And hence I started off our chat to say, I don't think anybody wants to have OCD. It's not nice. It's uncomfortable. I don't think anybody would choose it if, you could choose it. So it's it can create quite a lot of dysfunction in your personal life, in relationships, in terms of even at the workplace. You can imagine if you are late and now you have to do this ritual, and if you don't do it, it's not like you're going to be functional, right? Because if you didn't do it 10 times, now in that meeting, all you're thinking about is...
Oh, I think we've lost the doctor there. Let's see if we can try get her back, because I wonder when it comes to that if it's all about just what's happening in your mind. That means you would have maybe to get therapy to sort that out, or do you really need also medication in other times? But we'll see if we can get the doctor back on that one, because as you can hear, it's very, very serious according to our guests. Let's take a bit of a breather and try re-establish that line.
Es-tu préoccupé par quelque chose? Es-tu passionné par les questions qui comptent? As-tu une voix qui mérite d'être entendue? Eh bien, nous avons la plateforme parfaite pour toi. Téléphone-nous ou fais-nous un WhatsApp au +27 66 408 87 42 et nous te rappellerons. Sois dans la conversation.
Salut Channel Africa, ici Beno le diamant rouge aka Binal Sport depuis le Cameroun, le pays des lions. Voilà.
Sois dans la conversation. Il ne s'agit pas seulement de parler, mais c'est ta chance d'exprimer ton point de vue, de partager tes opinions et de t'engager avec une communauté qui valorise ton avis. Suivez-nous sur les réseaux sociaux, visitez notre site www.channelafrica.co.za et préparez-vous à partager vos points de vue sur Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
Você é fluente em português? É apaixonado por rádio e quer trabalhar na África do Sul? Você tem documentos que o qualificam para trabalhar na África do Sul? Nesse caso, podemos ter uma oportunidade para você trabalhar no Canal África. Envie seu currículo e demonstração para Canal África at newsroom@channelafrica.co.za. Lembre-se, se você não receber alguma resposta nossa em 14 dias, isso significa que você não foi selecionado. Canal África, a perspectiva africana.
9 to 12 midday, Central African Time. On the Move with Palesa and Benjamin Moshatama.
We're discussing obsessive compulsive disorder, also known as OCD. Dr. Gitumet Mashiro, clinical and sports psychologist, has been helping us really unpack this condition, especially because it's one that's been highly trivialized in many of our communities and in our social circles and on social media, where people use OCD just as a form of saying, hey, you know what, I do a particular thing in a particular way, and that's so OCD, but definitely not the right way to use anything that has to do with mental health conditions. We're raising awareness and understanding this particular condition better to really understand what life is like for those who live with OCD, but also to better understand, hopefully, what one can do when they've been diagnosed. So let's speak about that really quickly. We need to take our news break. What is the solution? I mean, these doesn't sound like these obsessive or thoughts or compulsive thoughts that happen in the minds of those who have OCD are easy to go away. Is this something that is medicated or, taken through therapy to resolve? And is it resolvable at all, or is something that's just manageable?
So it depends on the context, but usually someone must start with psychotherapy, seeing a clinical psychologist, and they can make a judgment call to see if medication is needed. Because remember, it's this thing of anxiety, it could be this depression traits as well, so depending on the context. But definitely, because of how it impacts the functioning. By the way, when someone washes their hands, sometimes they wash it until their hands become raw, meaning they use brushes, you know what I mean? Because the intensity or the fear or the belief that they have been contaminated is so severe. So we really need to do that. And sometimes it could be that they have progressed into a psychotic process, meaning that they have actually, it's almost like a psychotic psychosis that's happening as well. So we also need to rule that out and medicate for it if needed. It's not like that for everyone, but definitely we need to assess to see how we can help. But definitely there is a good prognosis for some people where only psychotherapy can help and ongoing, and if there is a stress, they might want to relapse into the behaviors again. So then they can go check in again with their clinical psychologist.
Joel, just quickly as we wrap up, Dr. Mashego, because we use these terms like obsessed so easily, one might not know when it's time to actually get a diagnosis. So could you really quickly tell us, when is it the right time to go get help?
When you are struggling with your daily functioning at some point or another, be it personal relationship. So, for example, if you were trying to sleep and then you can see that you didn't do the ritual and you have to wake up and do the ritual. So if it's interrupting any functioning of yours, be it personal or at work, please seek help just to check in. Yes.
All right, we'll leave it there because we've run out of time. Thank you so much for your time and for helping us raise awareness and unpack this conversation. That's Dr. Kitumetse Mashego, clinical and sports psychologist, helping us understand obsessive compulsive disorder a lot better. It's 11:32 Central Africa time. So sorry for being late, Musibudi. Let's get our latest sports news.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Thank you, Palesa. Very good morning from the States. So an emotional Coco Gauff said she will need to make changes to be successful at Wimbledon after she was knocked out in the first round on day one of shocks at the All England Club. Now the American second seed was beaten 7-6, 6-1 by Ukrainian world number 2 Diana Yamskremska on a packed court, one under the roof. Gauff was a contender for the title at this tournament following her triumph at Roland Garros less than a month ago, but a performance strewn with double faults as well as unforced errors handed her Ukrainian opponent a rare opportunity against the world number 2, and she grasped it with both hands to reach the second round. Now Gauff teared up as she expressed disappointment at the loss and also said she would do things differently in the build-up to the grass court event next time around, particularly about a very deep run after the French Open this year.
Changing my playing style a little bit, which is difficult because for me it's like I approach clay and I play this one way for however long clay season is, 6 to 8 weeks, or I don't know. And then I feel like when I go hard, I don't have to change as much, but I still have to adjust it a little bit. And I know in grass I do, and I feel like by the time I find it, it's already time to play, and it's difficult. But I don't know. I have faith that if I can make these adjustments, I can do well here. I really do want to do well here. I'm not someone who wants to write myself off grass this early in my career, but I definitely need to make some changes if I want to be successful here.
Meanwhile, Novak Djokovic overcame a physical issue to join Jannik Sinner in the Wimbledon second round. The 7-time champion Djokovic could potentially meet Sinner in the semi-finals, and he began his latest pursuit with an outright record 25th, or rather for a 25th major, by overcoming Frenchman Alexander Muller 6-1, 6-7, 6-2 and 6-2 on centre court. The Serbian appeared to struggle though very early in the third set, later confirming that something was off with the stomach, but rediscovered his form following a medical timeout to win 10 of the final 12 games.
To be quite frank, went from feeling my absolute best for set and a half to my absolute worst for about 45 minutes, whether it was a stomach bug or I don't know what it is, but yeah, just struggle with that. The energy kind of kicked back after some doctor's miracle pills. I managed to finish the match on a good note, let's say.
On to cricket news now. The Proteas left arm spinner Keshav Maharaj has been ruled out of the second test against Zimbabwe due to a left groin strain. The captain for the series sustained the injury while batting on day 3 of the first test on Monday. He will return home for further assessments to determine the extent of the injury. Meanwhile, Surunan Muthusamy has been named as a replacement with all-rounder Vian Mulder now to lead the team in the second test, which begins on the 6th of July. Fast bowler Lungisani Ngidi, who was set to join the squad on Wednesday, has been released to give seamers who impressed in the first test against another opportunity to build on their performance in the second test match, starting officially, like I said, on the 6th of July. On to this now. Springbok midfielder Jesse Creel's audition as captain of the Springboks was a successful one just last weekend against the Barbarians, so much so that he will lead the side in a battle and officially become the 67th captain, as the Boks went on to close a full strength as possible for the first test against Italy at Loftus Versfeld this coming Saturday. So Creel is in because the regular captain Siya Kolisi, who withdrew from the last weekend's match on the eve of the game with a stiff neck, is still struggling with a few niggles, but there is also little cause for concern in the Boks camp. At the moment, Coach Rassie Rasmus said that Kolisi had a stiff Achilles also, and that it was decided as a precaution to keep him out of the game and let Marco van Staden, who came in the last minute for him last week, start again on the 26th test match. Now the Boks will also hand an official start to Vincent Chituka after he played his first match of the green and gold just last weekend, while there were also returns for Andre Pollard as well as Damon Willemse in the back line and a start for Mone van der Berg. Up front, Lou Diaga will make his official return to test rugby after a 2-year absence on the sidelines after being on the sidelines due to a number of injuries. And finally, as we wrap up the sports bulletin, Oliver Giroud will return to French football for the first time since 2012. This after signing a 1-year deal with Ligue 1 club Lille on Tuesday. The 38-year-old France all-time leading goal scorer left MLS club Los Angeles FC just last week. Giroud last played in the French top flight for Montpellier, winning the 2011-2012 Ligue 1 title before leaving for Arsenal. Giroud spent about 6 seasons with Arsenal, scoring more than 100 goals for the London Giants before also signing for Chelsea, with whom he won the 2021 Champions League title with. He then spent 3 seasons with AC Milan, lifting the Serie A crown in 2022 before making his move to the USA. Well, that's a wrap from the sports desk at this hour. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, our email address newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11714 4459. For Channel Africa Sport, I am Musibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective. The rhythm of Africa. The pulse of the continent. This is Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Este é o Caleidoscópio de Canal África, com Remo Samo e João Yabalá.
O surto da cólera em Angola tem causado grande preocupação, afetando já mais de metade das províncias do país. Simultaneamente, a Agência dos Estados Unidos para o Desenvolvimento Internacional, USAID, um dos maiores doadores mundiais de assistência humanitária, decidiu não priorizar os países com maior incidência de malária. Para discutirmos as causas do alastramento da cólera em Angola e os impactos dessa decisão da USAID, convidamos o Dr. Jeremias Agostinho, médico e mestre em saúde pública, para partilhar a sua visão sobre o tema.
A doença, nesse momento, representa o maior risco de saúde pública que nós temos. Nos últimos anos, a nossa preocupação esteve sempre centrado com os casos de malária, os casos de tuberculose e também de infecção por VIH-Sida. A forma como, em pouco menos de 2 meses, os casos de cólera vêm aumentando, acaba por representar, nessa altura, um dos maiores desafios que o país tem. É expectável que, nesta fase, o número de casos venha a aumentar.
De segunda a sexta-feira, das 20 às 21 horas locais, este é o Caleidoscópio de Canal África.
Get set and be ready to go. On the Move with Palesa and Benjamin Moshatama.
All right, Chanduko is back with us to wrap up the morning's business news.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Thank you, Benjamin and Palesa. Good morning. Egypt's Petroleum Ministry says that it received a report from oil and gas production company Offshore Shirka Oil Company, Osoko, about a capsized drill ship in the Gulf of Suez. The ministry says the drill ship, identified as Adam Marine 12, is located in Gabal El Zaid in the Red Sea, which is Egypt's vital trade route and is one of Egypt's prominent oil production sites in the Red Sea. The incident is not expected to cause disruptions for navigation in the canal. According to authorities, at least 4 were confirmed killed so far, 6 missing, and 21 others were rescued. A Ghanaian organization fighting against illegal mining known as Fight Against Galamsey says Chinese nationals are to blame for the rampant problem of illegal gold mining known as Galamsey. China's ambassador to Ghana, Tong Defa, has since pushed back against accusations that Chinese nationals are solely to blame for the illegal mining activity, saying Chinese nationals could not obtain local mining licenses and were often brought in by Ghanaians who facilitated the illegal mining operations. Mustafa Akbad is a part of the fight against Galamsey in Ghana.
We are not just blaming the Chinese, we are holding them responsible for the destruction of our forest reserves and our water bodies through mining. And it suffices to say that in as much as we cannot hold the entire China-Ghana relationship in contempt, we believe that a lot of Chinese nationals who have come to Ghana have been part of the very devastating situation that have affected our lands and our natural resources.
The South African Revenue Service, SARS, says the country has recorded a preliminary trade balance surplus of $1.2 billion in May, which has been attributable to an increase in exports, which is inclusive of trade with Botswana, Eswatini, Lesotho, and Namibia. Import flows increased on the back of higher imports of crude oil, artificial corundum, and telephone sets, including smartphones and other telephones. Trade analyst Viwen Jongwana elaborates.
Well, the commodities that are at play, madam, are citrus is one of them, gold and platinum. So that is those are the commodities that we can look at. But then also, I think what is quite interesting and inspiring for me are the customs union, the countries that are at play, which are Botswana, Eswatini, Lesotho, and Namibia. And I think for me, it can be a sample of what intra-African trade could look like in the future if we take it more seriously.
Some South Africans in the hospitality sector say that while the upcoming G20 summit will contribute to the economy, it must be used to change the optics and showcase the country in a positive light. Scores of guests will descend on South Africa this November for the international forum that brings together the world's major economies to discuss global financial issues. The Africa Travel and Tourism Association estimates that the summit will bring in $68 million to the economy. Managing Director for Africa at the Radisson Hotel Group, Sandra Kenyobela, explains.
South Africa is one of the most genuinely friendly countries in the world to visit, and you hear it again and again and again from so many different people. And so many travelers comment on how nice it is to visit South Africa and how welcoming and friendly our people are. And I think that is that's our superpower as a country, if I'm honest. We should never, ever lose that. So I think that plays a huge role. I think the other thing, it's hugely underpinned by South Africa's constitution, which is one of the most progressive in the world, where we genuinely welcome everyone from every walk of life.
The Paramount Media company in the U.S. has settled a lawsuit brought by Donald Trump. It's agreed to pay $16 million over a CBS interview with then U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris on the 60 Minutes news program. Trump alleged the interview breached a consumer protection law in Texas. Paramount says the settlement includes no apology and that the payout will go entirely towards a future Trump presidential library. Let's have a look at financial indicators at this hour. $1 in Nigeria is at 1,000 naira 534. In Botswana, 13 pula 16. Kenya, the dollar is at 128 shilling 586. Zambia, 23 kwacha 85. BRICS countries, $1 in Brazil is at 5 real 44, Russia 78 rubles 36, India 85 rupees 58, China 71.15, South Africa 17 rand 62 cents. $1 is at 72 pence to the British pound and 84 to the euro. Commodities, gold is at $3,335, platinum at $1,352 per ounce, the price of Brent crude oil at $67.12 a barrel. That is all from me. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or you can call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I am Chanduko Ligege.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Tune in and turn up the volume. This is Channel Africa. Ahoy, matey.
Captain here to help, right, boys?
Set sail with us on a digital voyage like no other. Channel Africa has a treasure trove of awesomeness. That is our website and social media pages.
Tell me, why are you here?
We want you to be part of our adventure.
The winds are changing, Captain. And this time...
Imagine a world where curiosity knows no bounds, where entertainment meets enlightenment, and where every click leads to the African perspective. Visit us on our website, www.channelafrica.co.za, or follow us on Instagram or on X at Channel Africa 1. Go on, like us on Facebook at Channel Africa 1. So, spread the word. Tell a friend that Channel Africa's online variety is what they need on the web. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Step into the heart of the day on the move with Palesa and Benjamin. Every milestone and every triumph, not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa, partner with Channel Africa, because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story. A living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent. African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices. English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally.
That is Master H and XG. That is some interesting reggae music from Zimbabwe. That one is titled Anonida, and Shinos Man is also there in that one. Let's take a break. We'll be back.
Es-tu préoccupé par quelque chose? Es-tu passionné par les questions qui comptent? As-tu une voix qui mérite d'être entendue? Eh bien, nous avons la plateforme parfaite pour toi. Téléphone-nous ou fais-nous un WhatsApp au +27 66 408 87 42 et nous te rappellerons. Sois dans la conversation.
Salut Channel Africa, ici Beno le diamant rouge et Bina l'Esport depuis le Cameroun, le pays des lions. Voilà.
Sois dans la conversation. Il ne s'agit pas seulement de parler, mais c'est ta chance d'exprimer ton point de vue, de partager tes opinions et de t'engager avec une communauté qui valorise ton avis. Suivez-nous sur les réseaux sociaux, visitez notre site www.channelafrica.co.za et préparez-vous à partager vos points de vue sur Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
Hashtag on the move and connect with us. Accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa. Partner with Channel Africa because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent. African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices. English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa. Partner with Channel Africa because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent. African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that's...
Hey, CK, lovely one there. That one is titled Emiliana. It is 53 minutes past 11 o'clock Central African time. What an informative show we've had today. Definitely a journey of learning throughout the 3 hours of the show. And that conversation speaks a lot, right, about our society today. I think it feels harmful when you name things what they're not, and it feels like it's relative, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like you're doing something that's going to have a huge impact. But when you now dig deep into what something means, you know how big it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, it's easy to trivialize because we've done that, right? We've created a culture to trivialize, mental health issues that may seem small to us, but are actually serious to many of those who do present with them and are diagnosed with them. And really further understanding that just saying something doesn't mean that you are that particular thing. And you just need to understand it better.
And don't say it anymore.
Don't
if you're not
say
that
it.
thing, don't say you are.
Don't say it.
It's okay. Just to say.
And don't say it about other people as well.
Yeah,
I was visiting whoever, and oh my goodness, they were acting like this.
Yeah.
It's so OCD.
And
It's like, no.
we attribute those trivializations usually to mental health conditions. And with this one, maybe we're not doing it in a way that is discriminatory, but definitely it is one that limits the understanding of that particular condition. So yeah, it's a very important conversation indeed. Lulu Kabu is joining us right now. She's just walked into the studio to let us know what's coming up on her show. It comes from midday Central African time to 1 o'clock. Take a seat, Lulu. This is your home. You are welcome. We always love having you here in studio, and we're going to find out what we can expect from her show. And it's very impactful, that show, because this is when we get into the seriousness of what's happening in our governments, what's happening in our streets, what's happening when it comes to policy decisions, but mainly what's happening in our news. Hey Lulu, how are you doing?
I'm well, thanks. How are you, Ben?
I'm good. I'm good.
Happy Wednesday, isn't it?
Happy Wednesday. You look nice and warm.
It's very cold out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the nippiness is
Yeah,
gone.
it's there. Yeah.
Cold. Yeah. All right, so today we're going to be looking at a number of stories, and one of the key ones is, child abductions being on the increase in northern Mozambique's Cabo Delgado province. And since the beginning of the year, there's about 120 children who have been kidnapped by arms groups on the ground. So we'll unpack that particular story, because it is a worrying a subject where, why is the instability continuing in the northern parts of Mozambique, and what is it that they're doing incorrectly, or what are they not doing as the government of Mozambique with this crisis that
and we know it's
continuing.
the underlying theme is definitely the resources of Mozambique.
Yes, so we're going to be speaking to Piers Piju from the International Crisis Group, and they'll unpack that for us, because not only are there kidnappings of children, it's the displacement of people losing their homes, running away from the instability in that particular region of Mozambique. And then also undocumented foreign nationals arrested in Johannesburg's hijacked buildings. They've been occupying some of these buildings, and there was the acting executive mayor, Kenny Gunene, was on the ground with a team, and they just were doing site visits and found these people, and people got arrested.
It's going to be interesting. What are they going to do with these undocumented people?
Yeah.
Because, we've got a very kind of open-ended regime here when it comes to our refugee rights here in South Africa and asylum seekers.
Yeah.
We usually keep up to the United Nations standards. So I wonder how they're going to navigate those.
Yeah, and then another big story, the MK party, the deputy president, John Hlophe, this is the former judge, John Hlophe, writing a letter to the party leader, Jacob Zuma, slamming the party leader's daughter, Duduzile Zuma Sambudla, and the spokesperson, Ntlamulo Ndlela, saying that they're being disruptive within the party, and he basically claims that the pair are undermining the party's chief whip, which is a big concern for party members. So these are some of the stories that we'll be focusing on today.
Is it a political party or a family affair? Well, thank you, Lulu. Looking forward to finding out a little bit more about that one. Well, we're going to get out of here, myself, Benjamin Moshatama, and Palesa. Until next time, God bless.
Africa Update on Channel Africa with Lulu Kabu.
Protests have erupted in parts of Kenya, with police firing tear gas at protesters. The protests are in honor of those killed in huge anti-tax demonstrations a year ago. Alex Kiari.
We just received a communication